Well, so is everybody else's.
So I started.
Started? Okay. The meeting for Protection and Welfare Committee, Monday, May 8th, 2017, at City Hall, Room 207. It is 5 o'clock. It is now in session. Roll call, Alder Galvin.
Here.
Alder Dorf.
Here.
Alder Scannell as chair is here, and Alder Zima is not yet present. I'm expecting, I haven't heard from him, so I'm assuming he'll be coming shortly. I'll take a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion by Alder Galvin, second by Alder Dorf. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That passes. Motion to approve the minutes for April 27th,
Move to approve.
2017.
Second.
A motion by Alder Dorf, seconded by Alder Galvin. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, that passes.
Oh, sorry, if I can,
Certainly, certainly.
if we can hear number 4 on my way, is there any way we could move up the dangerous dog number 4?
Yes.
Police officer?
So, that was, which was.
So you want us to change?
11?
Number 11. 11's probably
Okay.
number 5, and we, because,
So,
Chair Renee.
just start out with number 11?
Sure.
No, I'm sorry, I think we start with 4 and get
4.
that out of the way, and then,
Okay, I'll take a motion
Move
to,
to approve the agenda as
no,
amended.
to amend the
I'm
agenda.
sorry, to amend the agenda to move, to take number 4 and then take 11 after number 4.
Okay, is there a second?
Second it.
Okay, second to amend the agenda, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve the amended agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Motion by Alder Dorf, second by Alder Galvin, all in favor? Aye. Okay, our agenda is now amended. We will take item 4, and then we'll go to item 11. So item number 4, consideration with possible action on a request by Alder Weary to review with possible action the issues of bed bugs at Mason Manor and what steps are being taken to address this ongoing issue. Staff.
so the Green Bay Housing Authority is a separate entity from the city of Green Bay, their own,
What I thought.
yeah, so this is not the proper committee to hear this, it should be heard by Housing Authority.
And I think that's accurate. Yeah.
I guess my only concern would be if it's an inspection issue. But we need someone from the inspection department to be here too.
Well, it would still be out of our, this inspection issue isn't our, this is not what we inspect, right? This is a housing,
No, no.
The city does inspect all properties in the city of Green Bay, but this is something for the housing authority to look into, an issue for them to address, because we don't handle the management of, Mason Manor, it's the housing authority that.
Right.
right. We'd have no authority to do anything no matter what.
And it was also, it was already referred to the Housing Authority, right, by Alder Weary? I mean, that's what it says, refer to Protection Welfare and Green Bay Housing at the
Our only
5-2
authority would be
council.
through the inspection
At
department,
the-
just like any other rental property.
Right, but there doesn't seem to be seems to be steps taken to address the ongoing issue, and that inspection wouldn't be doing that. That'd be the housing authority that'd be addressing that issue.
Right, unless inspection's not inspecting, and then we'd want to know if the steps are being taken by the housing authority to address the bed bugs. That's our only,
That would be, I
Angle
guess, a
on this
question
thing.
you could ask.
So then,
but we would need someone
should
here
we-
from the,
well,
Is that-
we have someone, are we, have we been inspecting this property?
Yes,
Okay,
as
and
the city.
the city, right,
Yes.
yes. And issues have been passed on to the housing authority?
The Green Bay Housing Authority has this on their agenda every month. So we address that. We update the Housing Authority, and we are working on that diligently every month.
Okay, so, motion to, just, for us, this would be received and placed on file. I would think there's nothing else more we can do to resolve the
I would
housing.
think so, because it's already, yeah.
Yep,
So I move to receive and place on file.
I'll second that.
Or can you open the floor for interested parties or no?
well, since we really have, the only thing we do is inspect, and then anything we have, we go to the housing authority. We really don't, there's nothing we can do at this, our body is not, does not have any authority over this. We can't step on the housing authority's toes, they're the ones in charge of this. So there's no point to take testimony or do anything,
Protection and Welfare does inspection. We do, you have inspections, correct, of the property?
which they then report to the housing authority, and they're the
So
ones who.
that'll be on their agenda? This
Yep.
is on their agenda permanently?
Yep.
It is actually, you can attend the Housing Authority meeting.
Okay, and when is that?
It's the third Thursday of each month at 10:30 at Mason. So that would be May 18th.
Okay.
Yeah, so,
Okay, thank you.
yep, sorry.
So,
So motion to replace on file by Alder Dorr, seconded by Alder Galvin. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, that's received, placed on file. Alder Zimmer's now joined us. We amended our agenda. We just did item 4. We're going to jump down to item 11 and then proceed with the rest of the agenda, 5, so on. So we are now on item 11. Consideration with possible action on an appeal by Jose and Liliana Gomez, objecting to the decision that their dog was declared dangerous. Staff.
This will just be a quasi-judicial hearing. I think you could hear from the individuals appealing it first, and then the city through the police department will be presenting their case. And then you'll determine whether or not the dog is declared dangerous or not declared dangerous, based on our ordinance 8.105.
Okay. Would you like to speak first, or?
Sure.
Yep, go ahead.
Is that good?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, do I have to swear her in?
As an officer of the law, did you swear in, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Swear in.
Do you solemnly, honestly, to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you the Almighty?
Yes.
State your name and address, I guess, right? Or state your name and,
Officer Mallory Mavis with the Green Bay Police Department.
Okay,
Main
thank you, yes.
officer. April 24th, I had received a phone call actually at home. One of my interns, Haley Pankratz, was working, and she received a complaint of a dog attack that had happened at 1226 Law Street in the city of Green Bay. A loose pit bull from 1232 Law Street had broke its cable and ran into the property at 1226 Law Street and then had attacked a dog. There was a resident there that was visiting with the neighbors at 1220 Law Street, and that woman was caring for, it would be her roommate's dog and the roommate's sister's dogs. And the dog was killed, that was a little Maltese. They ended up bringing the dog to, I believe it was the Riverside Animal Hospital and in Alloway there, and the dog did not make it. So looking back, I have to review some of those cases to see, okay, is this just a one-time incident? You know, at the end of the day, it's an animal, it has animal instincts, or is this a history of things going on? I had looked back at prior calls. July 14th of 2016, Officer Henson responded to the address. And she had advised the resident there who owns the dog, Jose Ricardo Gomez, that this is the last straw. She handed him a copy of the dangerous dog ordinance and said if we have any more issues with the dog, it's going to be declared dangerous. Her involvement at that time was a woman named Nancy Sidney who lives at 1246 Law Street in unit number 1. She was the complainant and a witness to the pit bull again being loose in front of her address as two little girls walked by with their dog, and this pit bull took a chunk out of that dog. She never ended up identifying those two little girls or that dog, but said that there was an injury and the little girls had left, and she said they're no longer in the neighborhood. So,
we have a documented call on that,
yes, and I have the incident number here for you as well.
and officers were never able to find out who the children were.
No, they ended up going back to their address with the dog, but this woman was a witness to it, and I did call her back.
And did we identify that the pit bull at that time?
Yes.
So we
When-
had conversations with the owner at that time?
Yes, and at that time, Officer Henson, the prior humane officer, went there and said, look, we have complaints about this. This is a copy of the dangerous dog ordinance. It does meet the criteria. The dog is not going to be declared dangerous at this time, but this is the criteria that's being met. You need to correct these issues. And I do have actually a voicemail from that witness because I called her back to inquire. And if you don't mind, if I could play that.
Sure.
Of course, it's a little better. Okay, we'll scrap that then. The second, there's also another incident that had happened November 16th when a Becky Homestead, who lives over on Cass Street, had her dog attacked near the intersection of Law and Roosevelt Street. There was also a witness to that incident, a Liliana Thompson Mariucci, who said that she resides at 801 South Roosevelt Street and saw that as well. So there's a history of this going on.
Again, did we talk to the owners, identify
Yes,
the
in
pit
fact,
bulls?
she's here tonight, along with the other owners as well.
Okay, were the owners cited at any of these incidents?
They were issued written warnings
Both times?
both times. Officer Henson responded as well as other officers.
Okay.
And like I said, it doesn't appear that the dog has aggression towards humans that I'm aware of, but the dog has issues with other dogs. And it's attacked other animals and actually killed one. As far as I'm aware, the victim, I should say the dog owner of the dog that was attacked, she paid about $500 for the dog. She had about $60 in vet bills, and then the cremation fee, which is $140. As far as I know, none of that was ever attempted to be paid out in compensation for the attack that happened on April 24th. And like I said, there are several people here that are willing to talk about the dog's behavior, actually attacking their own pets.
Okay, so in summation, we have 3 documented attacks on other people's dogs, although we've never been able to identify one of those victims.
No, we identified one of them, Becky Homestead.
We didn't identify the 2 little girls with the dog?
That was the only one that we
Right,
did not
that's-
identify, but we do have a witness to that.
Right,
She-
we have a witness, but we
Yes.
haven't identified the victim.
Correct.
Okay. And they've been
And she
issued-
did say that the dog was injured, but didn't appear to be, like on its
And
deathbed.
we've issued 2 warnings, and this last incident in April, did we issue a citation or anything?
A citation was issued, yes. Animal unattended within 5 feet of right away, I believe.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions?
I would just
For
like to
officer?
hear from other, no, not.
Okay, thanks. Anyone else who would care to speak to this, please?
Hi, my
Hi.
name is Jamie Knight. I am Wendy Knight's sister. This was my residence where the dog was.
Okay, I have to swear you in, okay? Please state your name and address.
Jamie Knight,
No, change your address, I'm sorry.
1220 Law Street.
And do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you?
Yes.
Okay.
So as I said, this happened at my house. It was my sister's dogs. My roommate was babysitting. We were celebrating my birthday in Milwaukee, so we were out of town for 2 days when we received this phone call. I'm here also on behalf of my sister who did not come. She doesn't have any children. She considers these dogs her children. So she is devastated and wrote something that she would like me to read to you, if that's okay.
Yep.
Okay. Opal is full of life and should have had many more years to come. This loss has devastated our entire family. The family of the other dog has taken her away from us by being negligent of their dog. They are poor dog owners, and this animal has proven to be a dangerous threat in our community. I have had Opal, and this is talking in my sister's tense, I have had Opal for 11 plus years since she was a baby, and the allegation that Opal provoked the other dog is completely uncharacteristic. Opal has never much cared for the dogs besides her daughter Ebony. For this reason, I know that Opal did not provoke the other dog because she simply has never wanted anything to do with other dogs. She was also not even in their yard, as they claim, when this happened. To the family of the other dog, you say you're willing to build a fence. What happens when you're negligent once again and someone leaves the gate open? Or perhaps you don't notice the dog has dug a hole under the fence and gotten out, or maybe you don't build the fence high enough and it can jump over. I understand that you love your dog very much, as did I, but lying about the history is not okay. This is not the dog's first offense. It had attacked a poodle, as she said, was on a leash walking by their house just a few months ago, and there are also 2 more witnesses here that could verify that also saw the poodle attack, which the owner was not identified. Perhaps you should have built a fence after the first attack, but instead you didn't, and it resulted in my baby getting murdered by your dog. You also say 2 wrongs don't make a right, but how many other people have to suffer at the expense of your continued negligence? What happens if next time it is a child? I also have a letter from another concerned neighbor saying that she would also like the dog to not be in the neighborhood. This was put in my mailbox from a neighbor. It says, in case I am unable to represent myself at City Hall tomorrow, I wanted to express my feelings about our neighbor's request to have the pit bull returned to their residence. I have been informed that our backyard neighbors are asking permission to have their pit bull returned, and I am not in favor of this. I understand that this pit bull freed himself of his leash and attacked and killed a neighbor's small dog. This pit bull has shown the capacity to kill another dog. I do not want to take even a small chance of this dog attacking another one. This pit bull should not be allowed to return to the residence on Law Street. Our backyards are adjacent to each other, and I have a small dog. I am cognizant of how my backyard neighbors may feel and understand that, of course, they love their dog and want to have him or her back. While this might seem like an isolated event to them, once a pit bull has shown that he can kill another animal, this is strong evidence that he can kill again. Please help protect our neighborhood. Thank you for your help in this matter. And then the last thing that I do have is the vet's reports from when Opal was brought in, and just stating that it was a very vicious attack. It was a kill attack. It had ripped a hole in her chest, and you could see her heart and lungs, and she died almost immediately upon arrival.
Any questions?
How big was the dog that was killed?
She was only 6 pounds. She was a small dog. So obviously in the poodle's case, it was bigger and had a better chance.
Thank you.
Anybody else have questions?
Thank you. Anyone else care to speak? Go, please.
My name is Becky Olmsted. My
And
dog,
Your address?
1362 Cass Street.
And do you solemnly swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you the great creator?
Yes, I do. I was walking, I have 2 Labradoodles, 50 pounds and 60 pounds. I walk the neighborhood regularly. I know that I've seen that dog there before and not have had any issues. I've seen it and they've usually put it away, but on this particular evening when I walked past their house, the dog came out of nowhere. Didn't see it, didn't anything. All of a sudden it was there next to both of my dogs. It looked at them, it sniffed them a little bit, and then it immediately, within 20 seconds, grabbed one of my Labradoodles by the throat. And it was a vicious attack. It took 2 men to pry that dog off of my dog. And it didn't last 15 seconds. It lasted a minute and a half, and these men could not get that dog off of my dog. And eventually they did, and they pleaded with me to leave. I had to try to wrangle both my dogs up at this point, but the 2 men were still laying on that dog, trying to keep it under control. So it took 2 men to keep that dog under control. When I immediately went home and called the animal control agency and told them my story. At the time, I didn't really think that he was injured, but in the next coming days, we did find scabs and puncture wounds on his neck. So he was grabbed by the throat and had scabs and puncture wounds on his neck. I have not walked past that house since.
Questions?
Yeah, and this, just for memory, is this the Roosevelt and Law Street attack that you were talking about?
Yes.
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 Okay, all right, thank you. That's all I have.
It was in front of, the attack actually happened in front of their house, though, so,
Thank you.
okay.
I have,
Oh, question? Question?
I'm just interested in the 2 people that restrained the dog. Was it the owner? Or
I have
was
no idea. It
another-
was at night, it was dark, I could not tell you who was restraining the dog. I just know there were 2 people trying to restrain that dog and get that dog off of mine.
Thank you.
Do you mind if I give one more go at this?
Certainly.
Returning your call about the dog on Wall Street.
That's me.
Oh, you work here.
Oh, well then.
All right. I missed you.
Sounded familiar, huh?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Please state your name and address.
Nancy Sidney, and I'm 1246 Law Street.
And do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do. I'm 2 houses down from them, and, well, I've had a couple issues with the dog. Last summer, it was early summer, late spring, I had my son's dog who's a black lab, out in my backyard on his leash, and their dog ran over and was lunging at him. And so the man came out from the house, and I was yelling at him to get his dog. Every time we moved, the dog would lunge, so we were just kind of frozen there. So I was yelling at him to get his dog, and he wouldn't do it because he was afraid of the dog. So finally, after enough screaming, he picked the dog up and took him in the house. And then last summer in July, there was 2 little girls walking a little dog, like a Shih Tzu or something, in front of my house, and the dog ran out and attacked that dog and was just shaking it. And the kids were screaming, and it was horrible. But the lady came out and got it, and if she would have been probably 30 seconds later, I think that dog would have been dead. So, and the little girls ran off. I don't know where they went. I used to see them every day, but I haven't seen them since. So, and it's just a very scary dog. I have the black lab, and then I have a little dog. And we don't even go in our backyard anymore. And he was on his leash too, so that's all.
Questions?
So when the dog came in your yard after your son's dog, he was off leash?
He was off leash,
Had
yeah.
he been on leash, or?
I don't know, he just came out of nowhere again. That's what he does. He'll just appear, and it's just like, and he used to come to my yard and use the bathroom, and then they'd drive by in the van and just open the door and pick him up. So, he runs around whenever he wants to.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? By all means.
This is the,
I believe this is the dog owner, correct?
yeah, so I mean, is there anything else from the city, I guess, side, or anything to do?
We can always,
Okay.
after, we can.
Can one person come up at a time?
Yes, please, one at a time.
Okay, because
Because each will have to be sworn in separately.
they asked me to kind of speak for them because.
Well, you could, when they come up, you could speak for them certainly.
Just
but-
because English is their second language.
Oh, okay.
So-
He can speak
He
on
can
behalf of all of them.
If they want to,
Can we
did
take-
you want
Yeah,
them to
we-
stand, can they stand behind him?
We discussed everything before and what they want to be said.
So if we just
That's
swear
fine.
him in, that,
Yeah, because hearsay is admissible, and you can take that into consideration, that he's representing what they're stating.
okay, so I need you to state your name and address,
My name is Alex Ponce. I live at 960 Waverly Place in Green Bay.
and do you swear to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. So I'm a close family friend of the Gomez family. Like I said, they asked me to help speak for them just so there's no misunderstandings.
Yep.
Everybody.
Thank you for doing that.
understand- Yeah. And also, if need be, Alonso's here to help translate if need be anything, if you have any questions. So, the reason why I came, other than them asking me, and I just think that they're really good people and I want to help them. And also, I want to help Winston. And I think that I'm kind of in a unique situation because other than them, I've spent more time with Winston than anybody. And also, for more than a year, I've been a volunteer at the Bay Area Humane Society in Green Bay. So on a weekly basis, I work with dogs. I'm called the Canine Companion, and I'm actually trained as an advanced volunteer, which means that I'm able to work with the bigger, more high-energy dogs that are just harder to work with. So I'm very familiar with big dogs. And if you've ever been to the Humane Society, there's a large number of pit bulls. And I just wanted to say, because at the Humane Society, or if you've ever been to a shelter, there are dogs that are considered dog aggressive. And what that means is just that they're aggressive towards other dogs. Doesn't mean they're bad dogs. Doesn't mean they can't be adopted. In fact, they're adopted every day. But it's just the people who adopt them are told, keep them away from other dogs. Now, in the Gomez's situation, they adopted Winston when he was already 5 years old. And what it was he was living at a shop, like a workshop. The previous owner couldn't have him anymore. and there was really nobody taking care of him, so Ricardo, Jose Ricardo started taking care of him there, and he kind of fell in love with him because he thought he was such a good dog, so they took him home. Their whole family fell in love with him, said that they wanted to keep him. And I just wanted to say too that one of the people who fell in love with him was their son, Ricky, and a little over a year ago, he passed away suddenly. And since then, Winston has very much been an emotional support animal for them. So I just wanted to mention that. That was mostly for me. From them, I don't know if you were giving any copies at all of the
All the letters and.
Yeah,
the
I read
letters.
those. Yep, I
I
have all
think we gave you about 16 letters. There was a
Yep.
few more given to us. Letters from people who've dealt with Winston, who have come, friends, people in the neighborhood. And pictures too with them, with Winston, with their kids. Just to show that he's absolutely not aggressive towards humans. And like the officer even said, he has no history of aggression towards humans. He has no bite history, anything like that. Like, see in the pictures, he even, commenting to his dogs to be food aggressive. He's not food aggressive. A child can feed him a snack. If you're like me, I have 2 Chihuahuas. If you try and feed my Chihuahua a snack, he'll take a piece of your finger. But Winston will just gently take it. A dog can absolutely tell the difference between another dog or a human. And so, with that said, like in the letter, we gave proof that we reached out to a dog trainer who said that if we're able to keep Winston, that he would be willing to work with Winston on his aggression towards other dogs, and they're ready and willing to do whatever, pay whatever, to work with that person on training him. And other than that, we said about building a fence. They have been planning on building a fence for a long time, since previous summer, and that's when their son passed away. And then we're waiting for summer, and right now it's just, with all the rain, it was very flooded, and he actually bought a pump to pump out the water of the backyard to start getting it drying out faster so we can get that fence up as soon as possible. We got a building permit to build the fence. They have, in the appeal that we sent you, there was a estimate that we got for how much the fence would be. So they're absolutely serious about doing anything that we can to keep them. Anything that you could possibly give us or want us to do, we'll do it and we'll prove it. You can have somebody come check the fence, have proof that he's been doing the training, the receipts, anything, and then most of all, I think they want to say too, but we're all animal lovers, and everybody is just really, it's been a really rough couple weeks because they haven't been able to have their dog. We took it out of the city.
Mm-hmm.
And then just the fact what happened to other people's dog, and we feel for them, but they just want to be able to keep their dog. I don't know if you want.
My name is Alonso Perez,
And your address?
1015 Division Street.
And you solemnly swear to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes. I recently moved 3 years ago from New York City to start here. They are my only family that I know, that I have here in this state. And I do want to apologize to the dog owners that got attacked. I'm sorry for your loss. We are in a very tough decision what to do with Winston and everything. It is a little bit complicated because, like Alex was saying, they got really emotionally attached to that dog because of my cousin passing away. So maybe if that wouldn't happen, they would have been, yes. But they're so attached to that dog, they're thinking of my cousin, they're thinking of Winston, how they helped them cope with their loss. And they're making an honest effort. And you can see the fence is not going to be cheap, and it is a big yard. and it has to be completely fenced in. And it has to be at least 6 foot, I think, or, you know, the max height, which is, I think, 6 feet. They recently had to replace their roof, and they still want to go ahead and put the fence to get the dog back with the family. They're willing to pay the trainer to work with the dog. I personally, at first, when I moved from New York City and, you know, they got the dog, I was a little bit scared because, you know, pit bulls have that reputation of being aggressive regardless and everything. And after a while, you know, he learns, you know, you fell in love with the dog basically because you saw that he wasn't aggressive towards people. Apparently, yeah, he has a problem with dogs, but I don't think when they took the dog home, the owner knew that, the previous owner knew that, you know, Winston had that issue with other dogs. Nobody gave us a warning after the first attack and then the second one. We thought maybe it was just a one-time or, you know, a mistake on their part. But as of now, they're trying to make it right. You know, setting up the fence, getting the trainer, you know, to work with Winston. And like he said, there's never been an issue that he has bitten a person or a kid or anything like that. The time that he was walking, or the time that happened with the two little girls and the poodle or the little dog, he went towards the dog and not the girls. So clearly there's some issues with Winston. Maybe the lack of being around with just people or not enough. I don't. They never took him to a park to walk, or, you know, to play with other dogs. He doesn't know how to socialize with other dogs probably, and that's something, you know, that dog clearly has some problems with. But at the same time, you know, he's really gentle with kids. I've seen him play around with little kids, 3-year-olds, and he's completely safe. But other than that, like I just wanted to say, I really feel your pain. I'm sorry for your loss. I don't know if this, I don't know exactly from what I heard, but the day that your dog got attacked, the babysitter was walking your dog.
But just please, just address me.
Sorry.
That's okay, but
Without a leash. So the dogs were actually walking freely. Winston was outside with a leash, and it was a cable, a metal cable, you know, but I guess he is a bigger dog. So when he saw the dog coming towards Winston, Winston ran towards him and they met in the middle. And that's when it broke the leash, and that's when it happened. So I'm not saying that it's their fault also for not having their dog on a leash, but, you know, maybe we didn't know how strong Winston was going to be and break that metal leash that we got. But other than that, you know, I do want to say I'm sorry to all the owners that had an incident with Winston. And we are making an honest effort to actually help Winston and, you know, help them recover their dog. You know, they told us to go to Alouette. We have 5 days to relocate Winston, or put it down, or appeal the decision.
I think
The animal has to be removed from the city limits within 5 days,
And-
or to be humanely euthanized.
And then we went to Alouette. She said that we had to go and speak to them. So we went to their, I guess, city hall or whatever. And I told them, and they were completely confused when I was talking to them, because they were like, I don't know why they send you here, because this dog has never had an issue in the city of Alouette. But I'm like, okay, so this is what happened, and I explained to them the whole situation. And I told the lady on the phone, I'm like, so this is what happened, and he told me that I needed to talk to somebody here and let them know that this dog that has been classified as a dangerous animal in the city of Green Bay, you know, we have to move it temporarily to another city or somewhere else, pending on the trial. So that's what we did. So we are trying to comply with everything you guys are telling us to do. You know, we are trying to make an honest effort.
Any questions?
Just where's the dog currently living?
Okay.
In Aloes.
Okay. With a family?
Yeah, with those,
Ex-owners.
the previous owners'
Previous owner's parents.
parents.
They're familiar with the dog.
Is it fenced in?
Yes.
And that's what the officer from Aloes told us, that the dog has to has to be kept inside all the time. And if they do decide to walk him, that he has to be on a leash at all time. No, not letting him run around or anything like that. So, and that's what we told him. And as of now, he's probably in the pool right now, the dog. But they want him back. They fell in love. They're really attached to that dog.
Was Winston adopted through an agency?
No.
Okay, so he wasn't,
As of,
He's the legal owner, he's registered.
so when I say through an agency, like through the Bay Area Humane Society or any of these other
No.
organizations that are out there, so there was no assessment done on the dog prior to them
No, not that we
obtaining
know of.
ownership of the dog? And the dog got loose 3 times and attacked other dogs.
Right.
How do we know this fence is going to work? How do we know someone's not gonna leave a gate open? How do we know the dog's not gonna be in the house and bolt through an open door as someone's coming or going? I mean, I understand that the dog hasn't shown any aggression towards humans, but the ordinance also covers other animals.
Right.
And
I think the
the
thing is.
concern here is, you spend money on a fence, you spend money on a trainer. You do all that, the dog stays there, he gets loose one more time, attacks another dog. What do we
Yeah,
do?
what we're talking about is like a total mind shift of their total thinking and everything with Winston. It's gonna be like, lockdown on him, And I don't know, it's confusing for me because I've been there throughout the whole thing of what the officer said about that when he had got previous warnings that they were like, because like I said, I've been around the whole time since the first incident, since they got Winston. And what she was saying that in the previous incidences, they gave him warning that if it happened again, that he was going to be considered dangerous. I don't ever remember hearing them saying anything like that, or anything related. That's why it was a shock when it happened this time. We're like, whoa, like, where did this come from? As far as we know, it was a warning for not having him on a leash, which is like a major infraction, because if you walk down the street in Green Bay, you see people walking their dogs without a leash everywhere. So all of a sudden it comes from, yeah, he did attack a dog, but legally, as far as we saw, he was not on a leash. So all of a sudden, your dog is dangerous. You need to put him down or get rid of him.
Well, it had to be disturbing that he attacked a dog, right?
Right, yeah.
I mean, I have a dog, my dog's never attacked another dog,
Mhm.
okay?
Mhm.
So your dog attacked another dog, you got a warning, there had to be some concern there, right?
Right, yeah.
Then you're approached again, your dog attacked another dog, and you got a warning.
Yeah, for
And how
not
do you-
having him on a leash.
Well, let me ask the officer, was it a written warning?
It was a written warning. Officer Henson issued it.
And what does the
Now,
written warning say?
I don't have a copy of that. I'm going off the CAD notes that we have from her entry from July 14th of 2016.
And the CAD notes indicate that it was a,
Indicated that it was the incident with the 2 little girls walking, that the dog was off leash, ran, attacked, and then she gave them a copy of the dangerous dog ordinance, which we keep in our vehicle, and it states what all the elements are. And she said the elements were met for that incident, and if there was going to be any future incidents, that the dog would automatically be declared dangerous.
in the first incident, was this documented as a written warning or as a verbal warning?
A verbal warning.
And is that our procedure normally?
I do 3 strikes you out. You get a verbal, you get a written, you get a citation. And that's exactly what happened.
What do the CAD notes show for the first warning?
That the dog was running at large and going after other
Oh,
animals.
what was the warning for?
Animal running at large,
Okay.
off property.
Not being a dangerous animal that had attacked another animal.
No, we have 3 different attacks, but the dog, we have history of the dog running loose. Now, I think there's some confusion. Our leash law is what people call it. It's called animal running at large. You have to be in control of your animal. Technically, you do not have to have your animal on a leash. You need to be in control of your animal, okay? Which means being compliant with a 5-foot right-of-way restriction, okay, with sidewalks, alleys, streets. And I encourage and I highly suggest leashes because at the end of the day, it's an animal. They have animal instincts. They'll take off after another animal, they'll take off after a bike, whatever. But our ordinance says that you have to be in control of your animal, whether it's an electric fence, a wireless shock collar, a leash, or verbal commands. Our police dogs are trained in verbal commands. You need to be in control of your animal. I don't care if it's a cat or a dog, you can't let it run loose in our city. So it's not actually a leash law, it's an animal running at large law.
Okay. My point is that what I'm trying to get at is for the first attack on this, on another dog, we didn't talk to them at all about the dog attacking another dog, we just talked to them about their animal being at large?
The first, there was a complaint to the animal running loose. The second time was July 14th of 2016. That's when the dog ran and attacked the dog walked by the two little girls, which Nancy
Right.
said.
And so at that time, the warning was for?
Animal running at large. And then Officer Henson gave a copy of the dangerous dog ordinance to them. I don't know if she issued a written warning. I'm not able to
Okay.
look back and actually look at my carbon copy a year later.
So what you can tell from your notes is the first documented attack on another dog, we warned them about their dog running loose, not about the dog attacking another dog. We can give them a
Yes.
copy of the ordinance about dangerous dog.
Yes.
But from what you can tell, that wasn't covered.
Correct.
Okay, the second attack, it was
Is in November.
documented.
Yes. They're all
As-
documented.
And, all right.
Just
But
not yet.
documented with a warning for dangerous
Correct.
dog. Okay,
Correct.
all right, thank you.
Mhm.
But I don't remember ever seeing that, so I'd like to see a copy of it, I guess. We'd probably like to see a copy, because basically what I'm saying is that it went from, as far as I know, it went from this dog, you don't have your dog on a leash, keep it on a leash, to all of a sudden your dog is dangerous and put him down or get rid of him.
Okay, whether you got a warning or not from your officer, did you have any inkling that this dog was dangerous after it attacked 3 different dogs?
No, I know.
And killed one?
And I'll tell you, well, obviously after the third one, but the first incident that had happened, like we said, we were not the original owners, and they had no idea. So the first time it happened, it was like a shock. We had no idea. The second time that it did happen, it was a friend of theirs was leaving the house, they left the door open, and he ran out because another dog was coming by. So the first time, completely out of nowhere, we had no idea that he was dangerous to other dogs or that he was dog aggressive. Second time, complete accident, the door was left open, it could happen to anyone. And the third time, he was tied up in the backyard like the report says, and he broke the leash. So it was not, I think, people are obviously upset and they think that they're terrible pet owners, that they're letting their dog run wild. The last incident that happened, I don't know who it was, a family member of theirs or somebody came over and claimed that, said some not so nice things and claimed that we were training the dogs to attack other dogs, and he was trying to start a confrontation, and they actually had to call the police. And then just today too, I'm just saying because I don't think any of this is necessary. I mean, we're talking about animals and animals, so I don't know why you should get human threats involved. And then today I got to their house, I was waiting for them to get done with work to come here, and a man came over and said, "Are you the one with the pit bull?" And said, "If your dog comes in my yard, we're gonna have problems." And I said, "Is that a threat?" And he said, "Yes, it is a threat." I don't know, what I'm saying is, people in the neighborhood think that there's such bad people for this, when, they're making an effort, and it's their dog that they love, and he has a problem with other dogs, and other than doing everything we can to keep him away from other dogs.
No one's saying, at least as far as I've heard here, that they're bad people, okay? They obviously care and love this dog a lot. They've gone through a lot of effort to have letters of support written up. My concern is the safety of other animals, and who knows, if someone tries to intervene between that dog and another dog, if a person were to get injured. Okay, that's our concern here.
Right.
If people are threatening or being mean, that's not right, that's wrong. And, that shouldn't be happening. But again, my concern is about this dog. And I mean, nobody wants a dog that's gonna hurt other dogs.
Right.
And it's frightening, It's scary, especially to
Yeah.
non-dog owners.
Mhm.
And to people that own dogs, it's worrisome.
Yeah.
You know, how would you like to have been one of those two little girls with their dog being attacked? I mean, you know, very frightening situation.
Mhm.
So, you know, I think that's the point I'm trying to make,
Yeah.
is that when
No,
this
I
dog
I
is
just got a point
attacked.
of order. What are we interchanging?
We should
This
be
kind of
questions.
dialogue. I think we
Yeah,
should
you're
just be
right,
getting the
correct.
facts, and then we talk about it later.
You're correct.
You don't have to convince the owner one way or the
Right,
other
right.
about anything. We
Questions.
just want
All right.
information.
Question period, thank you.
I apologize, Chair.
Yep, Eric.
Also, they were just telling me that the dog that got killed, the lady that was actually babysitting, they had maybe like 3 times where that little dog ran into their backyard or inside their garage, and they told her, please keep your dog away from here because we have Winston, you know, and he's a bigger dog. So 3 times they told her, watch out when, be careful with your dog because we have a bigger dog, and something might happen when we're not looking or something like that. So they gave her a warning, and they still, all the time. So I'm guessing the little dog was off the leash all the time for the dog to be running into their property. You get it? So she knew that Winston was dangerous, and she still, I guess, she decided to let the dog run free with knowing Winston was there.
We have that person here.
I think I would do that is, I would let them finish up
Yeah,
their
finish.
presentation, and then if you want to call and talk to her.
Okay.
Yeah, as I said before, we just want to know what we can do to make it okay for us to have the dog back. Whatever it is, whatever you can come up with, we'll work with you and we'll do it, and we'll prove that we're doing it. So, thank you, sorry it was so long, thank you.
Yep. Please state your name and address,
Maria Gomez. I live in 1232 Law Street.
and you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
I'm Jose's wife. And then he take Winston, and I'm really the first time I'm scared. But now he's a very lovely dog. We take him because my dog, he passed away. He loves dogs, and then he wants, to give to surprise to my son. So Winston, he's now like part of my family. And then I love too much because my son spent time too many times with the dog. So the dog, I feel like it's
part of the family.
like a part of my son too. And then please give me one more chance. I feel sorry for her loss, for the other little dog. I really feel sorry because that day I was crying, I was so bad. I feel so bad. But too many times the little dog, it was inside to my garage. My dog is always on the inside the house. The only thing we take out is when he goes pee or poop. My husband, he take with a leash all the time, and he never jumped to the other yards. I have a neighbor by my house, and then she play with Winston. And that's why she's, but I say, Winston, no. But he's only when she was there, and she played with Winston. But the reason is I told too many times the lady, and the day what happened, I go out with Winston because he's just out from work, and I put Winston with a leash, and then the tie with a cart. And then I saw the dogs, but my Winston, it was with a leash and the tie, and then the dogs, it was alone in the yard. Nobody was there. And they don't have leash. So the dogs, when my husband came, the dogs running by my yard. And Winston ran, so when we turned around, Winston broke the leash, and my husband, he fell. He fell because he tried to catch Winston. And the other dogs, the lady, she out from the house when Winston, he was
Already
by the other.
attacking the other dog.
So please give me one more chance, and I put my fence, and I promise, if one more time, so whatever you decide, I'm agree. Just give me one more chance.
Thank you. Would like some, and then certainly,
I'll be quick.
okay, but I need your,
I know. Kenna Reiner, 1220 Law Street.
do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes. I am really sorry, and like I want them to be able to keep their dog like as much as like I want to keep my own dog. And I actually like did not know that pit bull would attack. I hardly have seen the pit bull at all because like you said, you only take it out to like go to the bathroom, and I absolutely will leash my dog after this, but because I did not know, and like I wish somebody would have told me that the dog was like this, because I would never let my dog roam at all. And it's just like an equal situation. Like they want to keep their dog, but other people want to too. And like realizing that the dog was dangerous, the reality of the situation is what happened the third time with the dog dying. The first 2 times were it being bitten and nothing like enough for it to be really terrible what happened. But that's what will happen, so it should have been taken care of like immediately, because we all have dogs, and I understand because I love pit bulls too, and everybody raps on them. And that day I didn't want to freak out seeing that dog, because I didn't want them to think that I thought their pit bull was terrible. I stood there just for a second with my dogs in the corner of our yard, and then they conjoined in the middle. The dog walked up looking harmless, and I didn't like, but I wish that somebody would have grabbed that dog immediately once it started walking over, because I did not know that was going to happen. And it's a really hard situation. Is there any questions?
Did your dog get attacked?
No, I have actually a dog that's this big. That's why I'm concerned. If there was a fence already, that things would be different. I also, Opal and Ebony come on command, and so that's why I didn't have them leashed. My dog wanders, I guess, but she's not dangerous, so she's not the one that needs to be like confined.
So you were taking care of Opal and Ebony?
Opal and Ebony were
when this
there
happened?
because they were in Milwaukee for 2 days.
And then when this happened,
yeah.
you were taken care of?
Mm-hmm.
And so, in your care, this happened?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, I was the one that brought them out to go to the bathroom. And we bring them out on that side of our yard is a skinny one. Like, we bring them out on that side often. The dogs come and hang out at our house. Like, and you guys have definitely seen, like, my dog. And so, like, I really, like, wish that you'd see, like, the equal end of the situation. Because it was terrible, and I feel sorry for both ends. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Do you wish to speak again?
Yes, and my heart goes out to Mrs. Gomez. I have 3 sons. But when I was out there with my son's dog and the dog was lunging, the dog would lunge at me also. I felt threatened. So, you know, they say it's just against dogs, but I don't believe that. And I think the person that talked to them today was my son. And I have a daughter with Down syndrome, and she's outside a lot, and so her brother is very concerned. So that's why that happened.
Your son was the one who threatened you.
No, he didn't threaten you.
He
He said,
But please, no, just talk to me. We're not with each other. It's
He
all
told them that
Slade.
they needed to keep their dog out of our yard, which I think is a reasonable thing to say. He's not a threatening kind of person,
Well,
but he worries a lot about his sister.
okay.
Thank you.
I'm Amy Waters, 1220 Law.
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. So I just first have to say I was a witness to the poodle attack. I had opened up my door and heard the screaming and the dogs going at it and popped my head out, and the tree was in view, like I couldn't quite see, but the dogs, her 2 dogs, you know, one was in the middle of the road, and it was just very chaotic and very hectic. And so I was witness to that incident. I live right below Jamie and Kenna. I know Wendy, and I know Opal, and I know Ebony. And I have a 2-year-old daughter. And I know it's not people aggressive, but it is a concern of mine. And in most cases, this dog has been attacking when it accidentally, the door is left open too long. And so it's like all these things can be implemented, it can be trained, a fence can go up, that kind of thing. But it just takes that 1 second of not knowing and the dog running and lunging at another dog and killing it. And as a result of just not taking care of it, knowing that there was a little bit of an aggression side against other dogs, you know, a part of a family, one of our family members is gone now too. And it's just really unfortunate. So, that's all.
Anything else?
So we already know that Winston have a problem. We already know that. Unfortunately, it took 3 times. The previous owners, like I said, I'm not putting this on the previous owners, you know. And like Alex was saying, we are willing to work with you guys, you know, get it trained. Make sure, you know, the trainer, if the trainer, you know, sees that it's still not, he's not making any progress, then we're still open to suggestions. But we do want to give him that option at least. You know, he never had any training or anything like that. I'm pretty sure he's going to be able to socialize with other dogs with the proper trainer and training. And, you know, I'm not going to emphasize that, yeah, our dog was tied to, you know, it was already tied down with a leash and everything, and when we looked, the other dogs were coming out or something like that, you know. It's like the lady was saying, you know, it's a difficult situation because it is a 50-50 split in the middle. That's how I see it. But, you know, we're willing to try to make an honest effort on training Winston and put up the fence and work with the trainer and everything. And then maybe after that, if the trainer still sees that, you know, he is a dangerous dog or he hasn't seen anything, any improvement in his behavior, then we'll, you know, work with you guys.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Just one more quick comment. My dog attack was not a 50-50 split. I was walking on the sidewalk with leashed dogs, with lighted collars, a flashlight, and a vest on. That dog came after my dogs. It was all him. My dogs had nothing to do with it at all. We were just walking by.
Yeah, she walked in front of my property.
On the sidewalk.
Right. Take a motion to close the floor.
Move to close the floor.
Second.
Motion by Alder Brooke to close the floor, second by Alder Galvin. All in favor?
Aye.
Floor is now closed. It's back amongst ourselves. I'd like to ask the officer, in your experience, training.
In my experience, an animal that has animal aggression, specifically dog aggression, is something that you cannot train out of an animal. Like the gentleman over here who volunteers at the Humane Society said, even their own animals that they adopt out from there, when an animal comes in with animal aggression, they will adopt it out, but they advise you, this dog cannot be around other animals. So you need to keep it segregated, which is my direction to have the animal go outside the city so it's not a liability for any animals or potentially humans. That is what I've seen.
I have a general question. It seemed to me at one time, some years ago, they were talking about having a pit bull ordinance against pit bulls in the city limits. Because it's not the only dog that has aggression. People that are these big Rottweilers and all that sort of thing. And I don't know where you draw the line, but is that legal to have them?
I'm not aware if it is, I'll have to look into that.
I had a conversation with Officer Henson back when I did a ride with her, and we had this conversation about pit bulls, and she said that, in her estimation, it wasn't, and nor was it warranted, that that's a lot of myth, that it all depends on the train and the dog, and it could be any dog, and so she was not in favor of such an ordinance and did not think it was legal.
And I can look into if other municipalities have it.
I'm just curious about it, because, I don't know, I've never understood the pit bull phenomenon that's been going on for the last 10, 15 years or whatever, that, why do people want aggressive dogs? I mean, but I know that I had a kind of a non-aggressive dog that did grab another dog. So, it wasn't a pit bull, it wasn't a Rottweiler, it was a Labrador Beagle mix, which aren't known for
Yeah, it
that
can
thing, but, you know, they grab something that looks like a little bunny or something, and anything can happen. But, I don't know, you just don't know what to do. I mean, these folks said they're willing to put up a fence. You know, it's a lot of expense. And of course, if something happens again, all that expense was for naught. I don't know, can we require just a fenced area that takes in the back door or whatever? I mean, maybe a person would have to fence the whole backyard, just a piece of it, where they'd leave the dog loose.
I know my recommendation before has been either to declare the dog dangerous or declare it not dangerous, and if it's declared not dangerous, then it's really just kind of up to them how they want to keep the dog and harbor the dog. I think mandating that they put fences, I think that kind of almost implies that the dog is dangerous, you know, from the way that I see it, but, so I think it's more about declaring it dangerous or not dangerous, and if it's declared dangerous, then it should be outside the city limits. And I think if it's declared not dangerous, we have a strong recommendation to do so, but I don't know if that's a limitation you can legally put on them to do.
So, well, I guess I just addressed the committee. I don't like double standards at all, but, I mean, a lot of things are tough calls. But we gave the man a chance that the dog had bitten 3 humans. And he was promising to build a fence and all that sort of thing, and we were actually considering it because we respected the person who was asking and all that sort of thing. But I mean, this isn't attacking humans, not that you want it. And, I don't know, dogs are loose. When you have a breed that has a tendency that way, I think you really need to have a house that has a fence and some way to protect against the others, but I would be in favor of giving them a chance, providing that the fence is built, because they did not attack humans. And this committee, not very long ago, like a month or so, 2 months ago, let a dog bit 3 people, and we were giving them another chance. This is just one chance, and they didn't bite a human yet. So I would be in favor of providing that they build that fence before they bring the dog home, that we give them a chance at it.
What district did this occur?
It's my district.
It's your district.
Right. I guess my concern, though, is listening to our legal advice here. We are not tasked with ordering fences to be built or training to be done. We're tasked with determining if the dog is dangerous or not. If we all believe the dog's not dangerous, we can certainly make recommendations that fences be built. But our hands are kind of, I believe, and if I'm wrong, correct me, Joe, we declare the dog to be dangerous. I don't know how we can get around the ordinance unless we change the ordinance.
Yeah, I guess the way I look at it is if it's declared dangerous, it needs to be removed pursuant to the ordinance. If it's declared not dangerous, then they're allowed to handle it however they choose to, but based on the history, or if, you know, it happens again, you know, that's kind of up to them how they take care of the dog.
Yes?
So I came into this hearing after reading the letters, the heartfelt letters, and my husband was Ricky's principal at East, and knowing the pain of the family. You know, I came into this hearing really wanting to find a reason to say, yes, you can keep your dog. And at the end of this hearing, I can't find that reason, and I'm so sorry. I'm heartbroken. But I'm heartbroken also for these people who have lost their dog, who's a member of their family, like a child, like my dogs are my children, and for the people that are afraid. And I really wanted to say yes, because I know the story, and I know how hard this is going to be. And I'm so sorry that my vote is going to be that this is a dangerous dog. And I hope you can find him a home outside of the city. I would hate to see him euthanized, but I just can't let him be around these other families. I suppose if all of them would have come and said, no, please let him stay, but that's not the case. And I don't think I would have been that forgiving if one of my dogs had been killed either. So I'm so sorry that I'm going to have to say my vote is going to be that this is a dangerous dog.
And I would like to be able to agree with Alderman Zimmer. It would be nice if we could say the dog was taken to a trainer and we had verification that it had been trained not to be aggressive, if the fence was built. But we have to look at what happens if the training doesn't work. What happens if the dog somehow manages to get out of the house and it attacks again another dog. The incident that Alderman Zimmer refers to, people were bit, but that's because they were actually protecting their dogs from being attacked by this other dog. That's how they ended up getting bit. So I'm concerned, and I know I live by you folks, there's a lot of dogs. I mean, I was amazed when I moved into the neighborhood how many people have pet dogs, and they're out walking, you see them everywhere. And my concern is every time your dog were to see another dog, that protection, and I believe it's just trying to protect you folks, it's just trying to protect your property, I think is all that's going on. But it doesn't understand property lines, it's an animal. And so that's part of who it is. And I wish we could somehow work our way around this so that you could keep this dog. I understand how much this dog means to you, it's so obvious. And the letters of support are, I mean, I've never seen anything like that before either. But our purpose here is to determine dangerous or not, and I can't look at this evidence and say that the dog's not dangerous. And I am sorry, I wish there was some other way around this, but I have to vote on what the ordinance says and whether the dog is dangerous or not.
And I too, I know what it's like to lose a son. And I was hoping to come in and give you a fourth strike, but the dog is dangerous. It killed another dog. It's hard. How can we say it's not dangerous? And the way the law is, we have to follow the law. We've been sworn to take an oath to follow the law. And I think the last time we tried to dance around the law, it was an error. It was a mistake. We shouldn't have done that. And I am not anxious to repeat that error. I think that was we should not have done that. And it was because we felt for the owners and we let our feelings run away with us. And we have a duty. And it's not always fun. It's not always easy. But the dog is obviously dangerous. It killed another animal. And there's no mechanism for us to work with you. There's no way we can do that with the law. Once we declare the dog is dangerous, the law says it has to be removed or euthanized. And I'm very hoping that, again, you can find a home for it and visit with it and everything else. But I feel really here our hands are tied, and the last time we did try to dance around the law, it did not work out well, and we should not, I don't think we should be doing that anymore. So I am very sorry. But I think the dog is clearly dangerous, and we have to declare it dangerous. I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
The question of the attorney, are you saying that in these cases, we can't make a stipulation with the owners to build a fence?
I would recommend that you do not make a stipulation with the owner.
I didn't ask you if you recommended, I asked you if you have the power to do that.
I don't believe you do based on our ordinance. You have the power in this ordinance to either declare the dog dangerous or not dangerous. And I guess an example I can give you is, let's say, if, for example, you allowed someone to, the dog is declared not dangerous, and then they can, if they build a fence, they don't build a fence. Now you're determining that the dog is dangerous because there's no fence there. That doesn't really make any sense. It's either the dog is dangerous based on the facts presented today, or it's declared not dangerous based on the facts that you heard from both sides today.
Well, I just, I really disagree with the committee. Not that I don't agree that the dog didn't make the attacks that it did do, but there were other loose dogs, except in one case where it wasn't, and the other cases it was. The dog was leashed, so the owners had made the proper attempt to handle and control their dogs, but the dog overpowered the leash, and I guess they need a stronger leash, is what there is to it. But, you know, I feel we're totally inconsistent. Because, I mean, it seems to me from here on in, any dog that attacks another dog, they gotta get out of here.
That's not true.
If, do I have the
Excuse me.
floor?
Yeah, I guess you do.
Yeah, Lynn, please don't interrupt me. I listened to you, I've sat here, and I haven't interrupted you, but
Yep,
the
yep.
second you disagree with
Point
me.
made.
Okay. We haven't had a position where the dog attacked a human being. Everybody loves their dogs. Anybody who's had a dog knows that. But seems to me you can find a way if you want to. Where there's a will, there's a way. There's a dog that bit 3 humans, whether it was trying to interfere with another dog or not, is beside the point. I mean, one guy had a piece of his ear torn off, and this committee was bending over
Point
backwards.
of
talking about
clarification.
being consistent.
Point of clarification. You are mixing up your cases. The person with the ear torn off was the dog we did declare
Well,
dangerous. So
I'm-
that's a
I'm
point of
gonna-
clarification.
This is a dog, this is my son.
Yep, thank you. Okay.
Well, you know, certain people can go on ad nauseum with what their reasons are. I'm giving reasons that I think.
As a
if
point
that-
of clarification,
if that
you're
was
mixing
not-
cases.
If that case didn't justify it at that time being a dangerous dog, this case shouldn't be either. But I also agree that they're, you know, we know these animals have these tendencies that when the owners show good faith and are willing to make changes and do all the things they said, I think you have to give them a chance, and that's the way it goes. I had the same thing with my dog. Grabbed another dog while we were out jogging together, and by the grace of God, it didn't die, but it cost me a couple bucks.
Can I say something?
No, the first part, sorry.
Right now.
We can open the floor again later, but.
But it
right.
just seems to me, we sit here, on one hand, I mean, the case was, you had to grit your teeth, you had a feeling for the person, and you had to grit your teeth to try to somehow say that this guy should be able to keep his dog. Now, in this case, you don't even have any humans bitten, and you want to kick the dog out of the city or have it euthanized. I just can't go along with that. So and I think we're setting a precedent here. I think you got to give chances, you got to have progressive discipline. And heaven forbid if one of their animals did something to somebody else, I know that they'd want a chance. But maybe they have small dogs or whatever it is, so they don't worry about this sort of thing. But there's a lot of people have larger dogs. So I think you got to give consideration that you'd want given to anybody else. So I feel if people make the effort to correct the situation, that we should give that chance. So that's my feeling on it.
Did you wish to say something about that?
Just that, it was just one situation. It was 3. This is the 3rd time. And remembering what happened when we did, I believe, make the mistake of allowing the person to keep the dog, and the person didn't build a fence, and the person didn't keep the dog outside the city, and the dog went and attacked another, was it a person or a dog? I don't remember, but it was an attack. So we were wrong, and I accept responsibility for being wrong in that case. In the case where the person's ear was bit off, in that case, we did declare that dog dangerous. So that was a different situation, a different hearing that we had. So those were just some clarifications that I wanted to make.
This is a tough case.
Just like to correct something.
Yep.
We only declared it a dangerous dog after it had committed yet another offense after the person's ear was bit off.
No.
This
no.
committee was bending
Alder
over
Zimmer.
backwards.
No,
Yeah,
You are mixing two cases.
Well, gee, Ms. Dorf can talk about it all she wants, but guys,
She's clarifying that you are mixing two cases and you're still doing
Oh,
it.
she's clarifying it, okay.
Alder Zimmer, there were two cases that have come before us. And the first case is what you were talking about, where we gave the person a chance. The second case, we declared that dog dangerous, and that is the dog that bit the person's ear. You are mixing up two cases.
I'm not mixing up anything.
Well,
We do have to have someone put on the record the findings of fact.
Fact,
And
yep.
conclusions of law.
Yep.
So I've started, that the fact is, there were 2 warnings were given, is that?
There was one warning and one,
First finding
A
of fact.
verbal, a written warning, and
and a citation.
The first finding of fact would be that there were 3 separate attacks on other dogs.
Oh, all right,
And
okay.
so the first finding would be that there was a dog attack where there was a verbal warning issued. The second
Okay.
finding would be there was a dog attack where a written warning was issued. The third finding is there was a dog attack resulting in the death of the dog and a citation was issued.
And
I think we'd also want to then reiterate that we do have an ordinance that.
Right, so the fourth fact would be that we have an ordinance.
Which is,
8.105. And that under sub A, without provocation, while not under the control of its owner, chases, confronts, or
No,
approaches.
that's the person one. No, it would be the second one.
Okay, when unprovoked and while off its owner's property, approaches a domestic animal in a menacing fashion.
And also 3.
When unprovoked and while off its owner's property, causes a non-severe, non-bite injury in a menacing fashion to any person or domestic animal.
It's both of those, right?
no, that and more, but that's all we got.
Right.
So, I would then make it a motion as we
So
declare.
then, after that, I think, so that those were your findings of fact. Now we need to have the conclusions of law. Be like based on that.
Based on that, we find the dog to be dangerous and needs to be removed from the city limits or euthanized within the next 5 days. And this,
Based on
I'll take,
approval of the-
right, and I'll take care of that, but I was gonna mention, it has to go to council first.
Yep.
But, okay, so the next 5 days after council. And now we vote on that.
Yes.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay, so it's 3-1, Alder Zimmer opposed. Now, this will go, everything we do here is just a recommendation to the council, which meets next Tuesday at 7 o'clock in the room right next door. So, they will vote on it then. We will all, this committee as well as the whole council will vote on it, and whatever that decision is, will be final. So you can, if you like, address the entire council on this issue, okay? But, so the dog just needs to remain outside now, but it doesn't need to be euthanized or anything, because this is not a final decision, not till next Tuesday.
I'm sorry, was there a second with that? I think you moved.
I'll second it.
Okay, yeah.
Moved by.
Alder Scannell, seconded by Alder Dorf. 3-1.
Just a point of clarification for the
Yep.
attorney. It doesn't have to be euthanized if it's kept outside of the city.
That's
Right.
correct, yeah.
Okay, on to item 5. Consideration with possible action request by the owner of Burkle's 1 block over 1007 Tony Canadeo Run to replace his 6-foot beer garden fencing with a 3-foot bar rail and also for an extension of his outdoor beer garden to the east side of the building. Staff.
No objections to this.
Police department obviously has no objections. This is kind of what they're trying to do to the downtown Washington Street as well as around Red Far Pass, Cannondale, the kind of the entertainment system. We'd absolutely rely on the owner that he would have some type of security plan in place where it wouldn't give chance people to hand beers over the bar and stuff like that on obviously non-Packer game days and stuff like that. So just so he has a plan that he can regulate. I would hate to see a 17-year-old get handed a beer over your bar rail or something, and you know, just so he's aware that the police department does have some concerns, but I'm sure Kevin will put a good plan together.
Was there a motion?
Sure.
Move to approve.
Motion to approve by Alder Zima.
Second.
Second by Alder Dorf. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No, so that carries, yes?
One quick thing, I said east side, I meant west side of the building, sorry about that.
So it should be
Make a motion.
changed.
Oh, yeah, that changes the whole thing then.
Yeah, no. That ruins it, sorry. Okay, west.
We have to amend it. We have to amend the motion.
West is best anyway.
Chair, do we need to amend the motion now?
I think Alderman Zima I think he did as well, but maybe just redo it.
Okay, so the amended motion.
To amend the application to read west side.
Okay, second?
Second.
Okay, motion by Alder Zima to amend, second by Alder Dorf, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve the item as amended.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, a motion by Alder Zima, second by Alder Dorf, all in favor?
Aye.
We're good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 6, discussion and possible action regarding an ordinance relating to a sidewalk cafe permit. We got that where?
Should be the other one.
Number 6.
So staff?
Do you have I know I handed one to you. I think it's that one right there.
It's this one right here?
Yep.
Okay.
That's it right there.
Yep, there we go, sidewalk cafe permit, there we go.
So if I can walk through the draft ordinance that I handed out to you all. So this is, the first section is 6.155. This is going to be created in our ordinances for the sidewalk cafe permit. So you can see we have a definition of sidewalk cafe is that any group of tables, chairs, benches, or partitions maintained within the public right-of-way for use directly in front of an establishment with a valid restaurant license. What we're going to have as well as, so first off, I should state is that a permit will be required, and the permit is going to be to have tables or chairs on the sidewalk. That application is going to go through the Director of Public Works, and that will be through Improvement and Services. And it's in accordance with Chapter 9, Section 2.7. So they will apply for this, what's called a revocable occupancy permit with the Director of Public Works. If they will then review to make sure that they're in compliance with the right-of-way, they're not impeding any traffic. And then also, if they are approved, then they can go ahead with that. If they're denied, they can then appeal that to Improvement and Services. And this will be going to INS this Wednesday for Director Grenier to explain this to INS as well, this part of the ordinance. And then on top of that, so I'll just say the next section, Section 2, talks about Chapter 27.301. This was the part of the ordinance that was prohibiting alcohol in the right-of-way. Alderman Zimmerman, do you have, I know I have one over there for you.
It's over there. It's in that stack.
It's in the spec, I was looking for it, so.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to.
I didn't have a number 6 in my packet.
Neither do we.
Sorry.
No, it's
It's this one here.
It's the other one. Yeah, it should be that one.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so now I'm on Section 2 right now. This was the ordinance that didn't allow alcohol in the right-of-way or on sidewalks. And you can see on the second page where we made an amendment to it where we are striking out, used to have for C, a waiver granted by the chief of police. That has never been used before, and we're not sure really why the chief of police would have the authority to just grant a waiver to any business for that. So up to your determination, discussion, if you want to keep that in or not, but we propose to take that out because they would come to INS and Protection and Welfare to have the ability to have alcohol in the right of way. So we added C, if the person obtains a sidewalk cafe pursuant to Green Bay Municipal Code 6.155, they'd be able to have alcohol in the right of way. So then we go down to section 3. This is the chapter that deals with alcohol licensing, and this is for number 7, section 7 for outdoor areas. It goes through a sidewalk cafe and how the Protection and Welfare Committee will approve the extension of a Class B license to allow the serving of alcohol in the right of way. So that's what we're looking at here. So if you look at
3H then, is it?
Yep, H.
Okay, would you just go over that part again?
Yes, I can. So for H is a sidewalk cafe, and it's going to be the special conditions for sale of alcohol beverages at sidewalk cafes. So A is going to be that no alcohol beverages may be served in a sidewalk cafe unless the Common Council have approved a sidewalk cafe permit issued under section 6.155 of the Green Bay Municipal Code and approved an expansion of the Class B license to include the area of the sidewalk. So in the next one for B, it states that if there's any violations of this chapter, which is the chapter that does all the alcohol licensing, or violation of Wisconsin statutes, chapter 125, that it's a state statutes for alcohol regulations, that we can revoke the sidewalk permit. And then you could revoke the sidewalk permit and still allow them to serve alcohol on the premises. So C, and C is going to be, the way we have it drafted right now is that C states that alcohol beverages shall only be served to patrons of the establishment by a server in the sidewalk cafe area. No carryout or carrying of alcohol beverages by a patron to and from the area of the sidewalk shall be permitted. So expand on that a little bit. The reason why it's drafted like this is that if you look at the first sentence, we drafted it and we proposed that a server should be the one out there giving the alcohol to the person at the table. It allows them to monitor who's receiving it and who is not receiving it. I believe Mr. Klingsmorn today would like to speak to that, because if you go to Aardvark, their model is a little different than that. So,
Yeah.
and then, but if you look at the second sentence, that is for to have no carry out or carry in. It means that no one can bring alcohol into the sidewalk cafe area, and no one can take alcohol away from that area and walk away from it. So then with D, and if Mr. Klingsmorn is going to speak for regarding number C, if we don't believe that it's necessary to have a server actually give the alcohol to the people on the sidewalk, what I would recommend is that C, the first sentence, be changed to alcohol beverages shall only be served to patrons of the establishment, and period there. So then for D, each sidewalk cafe serving alcohol beverages shall be responsible for monitoring the area of the sidewalk cafe to ensure that customers are legal drinking age and that alcohol beverages are not removed from this premises. So
That
that's,
kind of covers C then, doesn't it?
and that's going to be your discretion on it.
Okay.
And I think, I don't know if you'd want to weigh in on that or.
Yeah, obviously, it's my district. RCP's put a lot of work into going down and speaking with the owners of this place, taking measurements, taking pictures, and this is kind of the goal and the aspirations that we've tried to make downtown. This real kind of neat, friendly place to go sit. So we're big supporters of this. We realize we have some hurdles to overcome with the ordinance and stuff. But with the unique setup of the Aardvark Wine Lounge, you get a card, you serve yourself. So, and I don't know if this is the wave of the future or if this is just something really unique that they came up with, but I would hate to have an ordinance that will restrict other people for coming up with such a unique idea. So I'd like to see the ordinance worked out somehow where the owners are responsible for who is served, whether that be self-served or served by a person. They're responsible, so they need to check IDs. They may need to know who's taking wine from their dispensers. And then when that's outside, they need to regulate that some way outside to make sure people aren't wandering off. But they've been willing to work with us, and I'm very confident with whatever they decide. We'll be supportive of it.
So then just quickly finish up on the last page. For F, it talks about that the sale of alcohol beverages should be from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. That's in the discretion of the council if you want to have that be from 11 a.m. to midnight, or it's up to you. I'm not sure if you have any thoughts on it either, but right now it's 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. And that, and so to kind of back up a little bit, they are going to apply for that permit through the Director of Public Works. Another part that they'll have to have is all the tables and chairs removed before, so at the beginning of the day they won't be there, and then at night they'll have to bring them as well. So they're not in the sidewalk. and that'll be on the permit, not in the ordinance. So then lastly, the revocation of a permit for number 2. So in addition to all the other reasons enumerated are allowed in this section or Green Bay Municipal Code, all sidewalk cafe permits, including the privilege to serve alcohol beverages in such area, are subject to revocation under Wisconsin Statute 66.0425 if it is determined that occupancy of the sidewalk is detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare, or if the right-of-way subject to such permit is required for some other public purpose. So this is the proposed ordinance at this time.
And obviously, the police department's looking for direction. 11 o'clock is an arbitrary number. You know, I hate to make it dark or dusk, because then you're fluctuating all spring, summer, and fall. So we'd like to basically put it in the councils to determine what time they would like.
What would you think of a later time?
Well, I guess what I'm thinking is, we're only issuing this license to people with restaurant permits, right?
That's correct.
All right. So it's associated with serving food. And we've gone down the road of we're serving food, and we've seen the results of that. So, and that facility did not have a restaurant permit. So I like the idea of limiting it to those entities with restaurant permits. And if we're limiting it to food, I think 11 o'clock and having everything cleared out by 11:30 seems reasonable. You don't see too many restaurants running past 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11. Even tonight, you're not gonna find anyone sitting out there unless they got some kind of source of heat anyway. So, I mean, they're limited with the amount of time they have. So I like the timeline. Otherwise, when the restaurant part closes down, it could turn into just an outside bar. And I think we'd like to avoid that.
Is there a way we could put something in, because in case of a special event or something, a way we can put in, an appeal process to that, or a exception can be made by?
Well, if there's a special
whatever.
event.
I think anybody can apply for
A special event.
extra
correct.
hours, a special event permit that allow them to serve outside after hours, allow them to
Anybody can do
have
that.
loud music after hours, that
Okay.
type of
No,
stuff.
right.
So that's even.
So that'd be covered under, we have section 2 here on the second page, when it says exemptions. That'd be under B, especially events approved by the city. 'Cause
Okay,
Okay.
that's fine.
Okay.
And
Art
I'm
Street.
good with
yeah.
Right, as I understand
July.
this, Joe,
Yeah.
so Aardvark wants to get permission to do this. The first place they go to is under section 9.27.
Yep.
They have to go and get the permit from there. So it doesn't even come to us until it's been approved by council.
That's correct, yeah.
And then they come to us and they apply to be able to serve alcohol.
And I believe that, I think when they go to Director Grenier or his designee for the Public Works Department, it's gonna be, I think, a matter of, if they approve it, I think Improvement Services will improve it, but it might not go to Improvement Services unless
Right.
it's denied.
Okay.
So it could be approved internally by the Director of Public Works, and then they would come to
us.
Right.
Okay.
They would have to go through committee and council.
And then there's an option in here that if, say you get someone that doesn't maintain their business and the tables are constantly being moved into the right of way or becomes some obstruction or down the road, it just doesn't work, we have the ability to withdraw that then.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And just a question, the attorney. Can we set this up so that it's approved by that committee? I wouldn't want to see a situation where the council approves one thing and then the committee is faced with, well, we're going to go against what the council's already approved. It seems to me that the permit should be gotten and then it should come to this committee directly before it goes to the council. It should have to pass muster from both places before it even goes to the council, so that you got an even-handed.
And I guess, I think that's a very good idea, and I think what happens, well, what might happen is you could have an establishment that is serving food and is approved to serve food out there, and then you guys might determine that you're not approving the liquor license out there. So I could see that being a reason why they might have their permit approved by INS or by the Director of Public Works, and then later at a different day has their liquor license not approved. But I think we should do the best we can to have it at the same time, but.
Yeah,
Well, I'm just thinking that when Improvement Services approves it, it should be for a referral to to this committee for final decision.
Yeah, and I think what we'll have in our application is on there, it will say whether or not you intend to apply for a Class B license, and they can put yes or no, so we know if they're gonna wanna serve alcohol in the right of way.
That's a good idea.
The other thing I had a question about was that, some people eat food at midnight. Most people that are dining, it's noon hour or supper hour, which usually is, the latest probably 9 o'clock or something like that. And it just strikes me that, perhaps we ought to put in here, I guess with each case is a separate affair, but I just don't want to turn it into an outdoor tavern after they stop serving food.
I think what we have here for the Sidewalk Cafe, and so this is gonna be chapter 33 that deals with outdoor areas for alcohol licensing. We have it limited to serving alcoholic beverages from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. And we also have on here that the alcohol, so the alcohol shall be removed from the Sidewalk Cafe no later than 11:30 p.m. We can have people have breakfast at 8 in the morning out there. That, I think, could be done through improvement in services, a stipulation with them. And they could also, I guess, eat food later at night, knowing that no alcohol will be served out there. Is that what you were asking?
Well, there's all different varieties. I hadn't thought about breakfast, but I guess some people like Bloody Marys with their Sunday breakfast. I don't know, we're supposed to try to stop encouraging the consumption of alcohol, but we seem to be always find ways to make more available. But I'm just looking back over these years, and it just seems that I want to try to have rules that apply equally to people that are in the same business. And so, before I give too much leeway about a cafe that's serving food, somebody can start serving pizzas and hamburgers or something and say, we're serving food too. Is there going to be some stipulation that at least more than 50% of the business has to be food?
No, the stipulation at this time is, and this is on 6.1551A, is that the Sidewalk Cafe will be given to an establishment with a valid restaurant license. And I believe that's applied for through the county. And from talking to Wendy Townsend about it, I believe that if you have like some simple food that you're offering, the license could be for about $150, and more complicated it could go up to, I think, about $1,000. So depending on the business, the cost of your restaurant license could fluctuate depending on what you serve for food. And
do we care about those things?
That's up to the council.
I guess that's I'm trying to generate some conversation about.
And the thought process was that this is not just opening it up to have bars serving and having taverns in the right-of-way. It's for people who serve food and may also want to serve alcohol as well. So when an applicant would apply, they would have to verify with us that they do have a valid restaurant license. That was the thought process behind it.
The restaurant license could be just warming pizzas, huh?
If it's approved by, I believe, the health department from the county, then that's what.
So, because there are different prices of their permits, depending on, I think they go and do a little analysis about it. I had a complaint about it today myself, but they went from $193 to $500 and some in 1 year. But they said the state law was changed or something like that. So, now serving a cappuccino can require a $500 license instead of less than a $200 license. So, I don't know, if we're opening up the city, what's good for the goose is good for the gander, and I felt we opened the door quite a bit when we allowed these outdoor permits to let people walk around with no fencing or anything else, with glasses of beer and everything else. So I don't know how you, if you permit that, how you work it. I guess there's somebody might be serving. I come from an era, not that I was 100% in favor, I wasn't, but that, boy, if somebody in the middle of winter went out of a tavern and whether they had a beer in their coat, went out and they took a drink out in the parking lot and the police officer observed it, they could go give that person a ticket and go inside and give the owner or whoever's working the bar that night, also another ticket for open intoxicants outside the property. And I always thought that was a little unfair, because, you know, how do you know when somebody's taking something out secretively? And I have no problem with going after the person who's doing the violation, but I know that we were disciplining people's license, so they sometimes had points put against their record for stuff they had very little control over. And people's livelihoods were sometimes balancing whether something beyond their control happened or not. And now we're sort of saying, well, in certain situations, we think it's okay. And so, I mean, hey, you know, I haven't voted in favor of having the cafes out there. Is there also gonna be rules about on the sidewalk and all that they gotta have? We're really gonna have this all on the sidewalk all the time?
That would be approved by Improvement Services in the.
Because like we approved one earlier tonight, but that was, you know, we regularly approve people that have outdoor days if they want, and sometimes they fence it, sometimes they don't, but they're still responsible even if there's not a fence. But those are usually not in the right of way. Those are on the property somewhere else.
Yeah.
So, could this be, I know, so the one you crossed out, the waiver granted by the chief of police.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of it you just kind of read off kind of quickly to us. I wonder if you could just rewrite the ordinance, crossing out what was there before and putting it is so that we can send it to the council that way too. And I generally approve of what
So I think,
suggestions are made.
okay, so what I have here is for 6.155, this is created, this is on the first page.
So this is all brand new?
Yep.
Oh,
Most of it is, yeah. So, yeah, 6.155 on the first page, section 1 is all brand new. Section 2, that's the ordinance that we have in place right now. And where I have crossed out C, that's where that old language is in there. And then section 3, that's all new language as well.
Okay, so 2 and 3 are basically new languages.
Yep.
I know, would it be wrong to ask for a couple of weeks to think about this and read it? I mean, this is the first time I've looked at it.
Well, I think we kind of like to get going on this. I know the businesses would like to get going on this. I think as far as addressing some of your concerns, I think some of that will be addressed not by this committee or by, it'll be the Director Grenier. He'll be, if someone's going to be coming to him to see if they can open up their sidewalk to a cafe for food, he'll be looking at what they're serving and what they're, if it's acceptable or not. I think, so it's really gonna start with Public Works, I think. And the director, I think the only time INS will come into it is if Director Grenier says, no, this, I don't think this works. You're serving pizza.
And they make an appeal.
And then they can appeal, and then they go to INS. So I think a lot of the concerns we have, I think will be addressed by the director, and I think you gotta put your faith in your director, that he's gonna be smart about what he's doing and conscientious that this is a legitimate business with a good purpose, and it's gonna be adding not only to the business, but to the vibe of the city, and if it's not, well, then you have the appeal process. So I'm not sure that we need to be as concerned about that. I think with C, I would just like to, in section 3, C, I think I would like to just put a period after establishment. Alcohol beverage shall be served by to patrons of the establishment, period.
And then if you do approve it, then just say as amended with that language.
Yep. Because I think D does then cover the concern about the owner being responsible for monitoring the area and ensuring the customers are legal age and no alcoholic beverages are removed and so on. So I think that covers that. So I don't think it's necessary that they be served necessarily from someone with a wait staff. I think the owner, so the owner's responsible, That should do it. Other than that, I think I don't really have any other concerns. I'm glad that we streamlined this. I think at first we were making it much more complicated than we needed to. I think we were kind of looking at it like a special event, and we were starting to do the Director Grenier's job here. And by putting everything in perspective and getting everything lined up accurately, correctly, I think putting that piece in makes this much simpler and easier and clarifies all we're doing is allowing an extension of their liquor license out into the right-of-way. That's all we're doing. Everything else is Public Works. That's the way I'm looking at it. I don't see...
Well, I'm ill at ease not because of protocol, but just because I like to think about things. I haven't even carefully read this yet. I don't, maybe, Mr. Chairman, maybe you've had access to it before in the committee, but it wasn't even in our packet, so I would just like time to read it and come back and maybe have another discussion. I want to say I'm generally not objecting, but I like to think about doing things on the spur of the moment before I even read something.
I just recall at the last meeting, when we talked about this, about fast-tracking it so that we could somehow get it to council for the June meeting, and that, you know, because it has to go through 2 readings, because summer's gonna be over if we hold it. So we talked about it, we talked it through, you read it aloud to us, so, you know, we followed along, you read it aloud. I'm very comfortable voting on it tonight. I just wanted to let you know that, Chair. Thank you.
Well, when I made this suggestion, Alder Sima, if you've got between now and council, and if there's something you feel needs to be worked on, you could make a motion to hold or kick back. Would you feel comfortable about that?
Well, I'm ill at ease that it didn't even have enough time to be put into our packet, and we're making a recommendation without the light of day hardly being on this to us. It didn't have light of this room until a few minutes ago. So I don't know. You folks, of course, are controlling the committee, so you do whatever you want.
Well, for me, we had discussed this, so it's not like it's cold, and basically this is just the legalese of what we've asked being put before us. So I don't see this as being a big surprise. There were some tweaks to it and changes to it from what we talked about, we've put things in perspective with Public Works and taken out the portion of this where we were trying to do the whole thing ourselves, and so I feel comfortable going forward right now. I mean, it's not like we haven't discussed this, and this isn't basically what we discussed. It's basically what we discussed. So, anything else? Alder Galvin, anything, or?
No, I'm actually kind of pleased that we now have, at least it seems like, a clear path for restaurants to obtain the ability to have an outdoor cafe, and if they so wish, also to potentially be able to serve alcohol. A little bit concerned about C. I'm used to, when I've been in other areas where they allow outdoor cafes with alcohol, it's always being served by a server. But I understand with Aardvark, and you're certainly not the only one in Green Bay, there's at least one other place I'm aware of that operates the way you do. And again, you're responsible. Like any business that serves alcohol, you're responsible for everything that happens, despite what other people may feel. It's the owner of the business that's responsible for his patrons. And that responsibility rests on your shoulders and all their shoulders. And if there's violations, you know, there's laws that deal with that, and you'll have to deal with it at that time. So, you know, Other than that, I'm just not used to having how you guys do it. It works, I've been there. You haven't any problems, so, with underage people or anything else like that, so I'm satisfied with what we have here, but I do understand Alderman Zimmer's
Yep,
concern.
I appreciate that too.
But I'm gonna vote in favor of this, but certainly if anyone has anything that bothers them, hopefully we're gonna bring it up at council, and then we can have the whole council weigh in on it. And if it needs to be sent back, it needs to be sent back, but I also understand we only get like 3 days of good weather here to serve outside, so I understand too that you have a desire to have this up and running before the snow flies.
In August?
In August, yeah.
Well, I'll take a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion
As
by-
amended.
As amended,
As amended.
motion to approve as amended, seconded by Alder Galvin. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that passes. Tuesday, 7 o'clock. We're on to item 7. Police Department's 2017 report on liquor violations.
I'll pass this out here. Obviously, the highlighted ones are from our compliance checks that we were asked to start again by
I think you
Alder
guys have a
Galvin.
copy of that. We all have
Yeah,
this, right?
you should all have a copy. So obviously, we're about 50% done with our compliance checks. Our completion date is hopefully going to be the first week of June. We'll have all compliance checks done by.
So we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Is it this that we got extra?
Mhm.
Is
Yes.
this what we got? Okay.
But obviously, the top 3 are not compliance checks. Those are just straight violations that happen throughout the year. The bottom ones that are highlighted, we start our compliance checks the last week of March. So you see the date of violations, 3/30, 4/6, 4/6, 4/13, 4/11, 4/11. Those were during compliance checks.
Ours aren't highlighted in stars.
Yeah, I hide them.
You highlight-
That's why I was going to
Oh,
pass it out.
I
So you could just,
So we could
you could
see them.
compare them real quick. Those were during our compliance checks.
Okay, no, I've got the right one.
These are the compliance checks?
But the bottom.
That's all the liquor law violations. The bottom 5, Alders, are the, or bottom 6 are the, during our compliance checks that we were asked to do by Protection and Welfare.
This guy was operating his...
These are ones that failed, right?
Right.
Yes.
And the others passed.
Yes, all the other ones passed so
And
far.
about how many have you done?
We're
so
about
far?
50% done. I think we have
Wow.
297.
Is that bars, liquor stores?
That's everything.
Anything
Anybody
that
who
has-
sells
that sells
alcohol.
booze?
Yeah.
So of 150 more or less that you've done, you say about half?
About half,
You've
we're
only
about
had
halfway
6
done. We
violations?
only have 6 violations so
Well,
far.
Well, that's certainly a lot better than
It's
5 years
it's
ago.
absolutely very, very encouraging.
Good job.
It's not us, it's them.
So, and who's being cited in these? The
Um,
servers and then the manager owners? or-
The server's being immediately cited,
Okay.
and then a follow-up is being done with the manager owner. And that is at the discretion of our officers. It's not a flat rate thing. It's what type of training you have, what the attitude is. Obviously, it's a discretionary thing. It's not a flat thing.
So the manager or owner of the store shows they haven't had that much training?
Not much
or-
training. They're willing to get educated on it. They're willing to go through our CP training and stuff, or liquor law training, then they necessarily won't get a citation.
So you guys have some criteria. I mean, it's just not arbitrary. I had a bad day at home, so you get a ticket, and the next
No.
day things are great, you get a warning.
No, absolutely
So
not.
you guys have some criteria
Yep.
and stuff, how they can avoid getting a
Yep,
citation?
if they immediately sell, then that's an automatic citation for failure to the person, and then our CPs follow up with the ordinance.
Okay.
Of those 6, the first 2 at 952 West Mason, what is that establishment?
That's a gas station.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's the, I believe it's the Marathon gas station right at the corner of
13th or
12th and Mason, or 13th and Mason, right there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's the very people that wanted to start selling liquor, and they can't even control beer.
Yeah.
How is it they got a citation for bartending without an operator's license?
You need a operator's license to sell.
somebody on premises,
So
right?
not only did they sell to an underage person, but the person there didn't even have, you either need the owner of the establishment there, or the person needs to be a licensed bartender. They had neither. So he received 2 citations. And it's sad to say that is a West Side issue, so I'm not sure what the follow-up with the owner was yet. Because obviously they have issues with the owner that he didn't have a licensed bartender working at a gas station that sells alcohol.
Okay.
Or
Licensed
beer.
bartender means a licensed person to sell
Yeah,
alcohol,
yeah.
really. So I mean, bartender's probably throwing us off here.
Yeah, sorry, a license.
Because they don't have a bar there, they have.
No.
I was like, wow. Get your gas on, get gas.
And then there's Aldi's, that's
I'll
a
print it out.
grocery store.
Yes, we're checking everybody that
So
that
they-
has beer or alcohol.
So, because they do have some wine and beer in there.
Yes, sir.
And so, through their checkout, it got through.
Yep.
And the United One Stop and Grand Central Station, same sort of situations. The only one that was a tavern then is, I mean, it was a tavern, was the one at 106 South Broadway.
Actually, is that more of a restaurant?
It's a restaurant.
Yeah, JV's.
Restaurant, but they have a bar in there.
Right.
Yeah.
Which property is that?
That used to be the old
Reds.
Reds.
Right on the corner.
Oh,
Right on
okay.
the corner.
Maria's before that.
Yeah,
Maria's,
Maria's before
yeah.
that.
Oh, God, I miss
the people that, I believe the people that are owner of Chives bought it as a smaller version of Chives.
Actually,
So
it's JV's.
They came in
Well,
and
it is
asked,
Chives.
that's
No,
a place where they
Shady's.
can drink beer, right?
Yep.
They just aren't buying it for takeaway.
Nope.
Oh, yeah.
They sit at they belly up to the bar, order a drink, and the bartender doesn't check their ID, or he looks at it and doesn't realize they're underage and serves them.
Move to receive and place on file.
Second.
Motion by Alder Zimmerman to receive and place on file, second by Alder Galvin, all in favor?
Aye.
That passes. Number 8, consideration with possible action on renewal applications for various beer and/or liquor licenses for the 2017-18 license year attached. Any staff? Anything?
There were no concerns with those applications. I believe they were emailed to everyone as well. And I think they were also emailed to the police department to have the district captains look at each one, and they would then state whether or not they had any issues, and they did with those for number 8.
Then what are these,
Are you on the red?
Yep.
yeah, I'm not,
Yeah, I don't know, I'm not seeing them in here either.
Are they here? Right at the very beginning?
Beginning, yeah.
Oh, they're at the
They're
beginning?
They're at the beginning.
Just
They got put at the
Okay, there we
beginning.
are, yep.
Where are they not?
Right at the very beginning of the packet.
second.
so we have yet to hear from the district captains if they have any concerns, or?
No, we, and I'm just making sure one thing, because we had two versions of this that I want to make sure, our lists are the same as your list, Bill.
These are the combination license, correct? These aren't just one or the other.
Yeah, I believe there's a variety of them. There's Class A, combination, Class A, beverage.
Our first list had number 9.
Okay.
So
But are these the only ones that need to be renewed, or are we gonna be seeing more in here?
These are ones that would be, that the police department, law department are recommending to renew at this time.
And do you have a list of those you're not recommending?
We have one that'd be recommended to not be renewed, and that was number 9, so we can discuss that after number 8.
Okay. Well, I'm just wondering about, isn't 952 West Mason? Is that one of these?
952 has a violation. They have not received their day in court yet.
But are they on the list here? To be renewed?
For renewal?
They might be classic.
Yeah. These are all bar restaurants, liquor.
Yeah, I don't see any gas stations on this.
Quick traffic.
Did you find one?
University shop.
I'm looking along this. You're in a class A, I'm not. I'm in a class B. Okay.
Yeah, it's third page at the top. Yeah, we're not recommending, obviously, they have to have their day in court. The owner of that establishment has been working with us. We haven't done compliance checks, so obviously, everybody gets their first violation, they get their ticket, they get the chance to.
So they've had no previous violations prior to this?
Not since, and they didn't in 14, was the last time we did liquor law. So 15, we didn't do compliance checks, and now we're back at them again as direction of the council or the committee.
Well,
Would you like to?
Should that one be held out?
And that's up to discretion of the committee.
I don't know, I mean, I suppose we could hold it, but I don't have a problem with going forward. I mean, there's going to be, there have been, establishments have had violations in the past, and they've worked with the police, and they've worked on cleaning it up. I don't know that I wanted just one violation, and they're out.
Well, then all six should be up on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with your assessment, Alder. We don't go after someone's license or go to shut someone down after one violation. It's a progressive kind of discipline. We try to work with these owners. We try to, try to help them out, business plans, teach their staff. So obviously, this is a work in progress for us. I can't ever, in the history of me being here, know that we went after someone's license for a single violation or a one-time incident. It's usually a progressive thing where they can't handle their establishment, or we have numerous problems.
Yeah. If we held it up, how long would we hold it up, for Christ's sakes? I mean,
My only concern is that we just granted this to them in the last 6 months. And I can remember them before us here. And, they were very profusely about how they're there all hours and all that sort of thing. And of course, here we come and it was a double violation. They not only didn't have anybody there, it was just complete. So I don't know, it's like a double violation here.
I'm not privy to
I guess,
what the committee did.
one of the suggestions I made at earlier meetings is that where we have concerns, is the police department has concerns, we at least bring them before the committee here again. That they gotta come and explain themselves, and hopefully the committee's review of them will make better operators.
well, I think first they got to have their day in court, and then certainly the police will be working with them. And if if the police have a problem, see a problem, they can certainly bring that forward to us at that time.
Will these folks be retested before licensing time?
Well, I think licenses is on June 1st.
June 30th.
June 30th?
By June 30th.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have had-
Absolutely, I can make that a recommendation to our district captains.
I just think of the people who violated I know it. About 5 years ago when we did it, I mean, there was just half of them, about 70% of them failed. And then the second time around, it was like a month or month and a half later, 50% of those still failed again. We had one case where somebody had a total of 5 or 6 violations over a relatively short period of time.
Sure, I guess the police department would willing to take direction from the committee that we retest these, and then if they have a second failure, you'd like them to be notified, you'd like to see them in front of
I'd like to have it before us.
protection and welfare. I don't know if that's within the scope of what they do.
Yeah, I mean, that's just a recommendation, I think, from the committee for department, so I mean, that's fine.
Do we need to make that as a motion? I
No.
don't think so, no. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I guess my question would be, the state has the right with violations to pull or suspend licenses. Is that correct, or no?
I believe it's with this committee.
Yeah.
It's only with this committee.
I'm not aware if the state can do it on their own. I think it's because local municipalities regulate the license.
Well, I guess what I'm wondering is, they get cited, they pay a fine. They get cited, they pay a fine, they get cited, they pay a fine. We can wait till next year and then just say, we're not renewing your license, or during the year, we can have the owner come in here, talk it over with them, see what's going on. But I know that with paying of the fines, there's been suspensions of licenses also, not coming from this committee. So how does that work?
That'd be between the police department, the prosecutor, and the bar owner. My understanding is that if there's been some issues with a bar owner or anyone with a liquor license, that if they typically do like a stipulation where they might, let's say they have a citation for whatever it is, serving after hours. In lieu of paying the fine for that, they may enter a stipulation saying, if you have another citation in the near future, we will hold your original citation, you accountable for that, as long as the new citation, and then you may be suspended for X amount of time. So that's like a stipulation with the prosecutor to kind of help the person kind of train them and educate them what to do, give them a little bit of a break, and then if they violate it again, that's when you could have a suspension through the prosecutor instead of a suspension through the committee. So the committee could do could do our own suspension. If you review the conduct and they have a hearing, you could then suspend the license, I believe, for, I think it's up to 10 months is what you could do, but that's a different process.
That'd be like through a quasi-judicial?
Yeah.
So there's two routes to suspensions. One is through an agreement that the owner has with the prosecutors.
Mhm.
They don't have to agree with that. I
They don't
guess,
have to.
And then it comes to us.
Yeah, so if there's an agreement with the prosecutor, it's typically in lieu of paying a citation or going through whatever the penalties would be for that original citation. They enter an agreement. If they violated, have another violation, then that's when the stipulation comes.
And then maybe, we see this all the time in the courts where they're making a deal, they dismiss certain charges, if they plead to other charges and that kind of stuff. But if it comes to the committee, we can look at all charges, whether they were dismissed or not, as if they happened okay. I just want to make sure we're not, someone's got to pay a fine, they get a suspension, and then they come in front of here, and we decide to suspend them also. I mean, you know, at some point, it's got to remain fair.
Yeah, that's correct.
And equitable across the board for everybody. So, all right, thank you.
So, motion?
To approve.
Second.
Motion by Alder Dorf to approve, second by Alder Galvin. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, that passes. On to number 9, consideration of possible action on the renewal application for a Class B combination license by Nick's II LLC at 1657 Main Street, staff.
So to kind of explain what happened for our past item, number 8, those are the ones that the police department felt like should be approved and that their license should be renewed. The police department has information where they believe that they would recommend that Nick's Bar, that their liquor license should not be renewed based on the past conduct that they've had. So in order to go through that process to not renew a liquor license, the individual needs an opportunity to be heard. And at a quasi-judicial hearing, this means that the city would have to send out a letter to this individual stating that, giving them notice of the time and day of the hearing and also the alleged conduct that occurred. Then what would happen is there'd be a hearing at the next Protection and Welfare Committee, I believe that's June 12th, and that's where Mr. Nichols would be able to present his evidence, the city would present their evidence, and then you would weigh on whether or not to renew the license based upon the standards that you have. So what I would ask at this time is that, I understand that Mr. Nichols is here, but I would ask that the committee does not open up the floor for this item at this time, because we do not want to be taking in testimony or any evidence or information from him before there's a hearing. We want to make sure that there's no ex parte communication from Mr. Nichols to the committee, whereas the city cannot present their evidence. We want to make sure that you guys are unbiased going into the committee, the hearing on June 12th as well. So what we recommend based on that is that, based on the past conduct, the city would recommend holding this item until the next Protection and Welfare Committee meeting. And during that time, that will allow the city to give the proper notice to Mr. Nichols And then they would have a hearing to hear his evidence and hear the city's evidence and the intention to not renew the license on that date.
So motion
So
to
we-
hold, but yes, Alderman Zimmer?
Just going back from past practice, one time ago, when I spent about half my career on this committee, but if the department wants to bring a case that they think we should have a quasi-judicial hearing, usually we have a preliminary hearing first, and we hear from the police department, we do hear from them, and of course, they don't have their witnesses or anything else, and we listen to it, and then we make a decision whether it should go to a quasi-judicial hearing or not. And so you usually, at least in the past, we have the department tell us why they think this should be disciplined, and there's an initial hearing.
Is there some information you would like tonight? I mean, I can offer kind of just the outside scope.
Still kind of what the police department's
Yeah.
view on this is, and then I think if they have a chance to respond to it, that doesn't mean that we don't have a quasi-judicial hearing, but we make that decision. Then, at least in the past, the committee made that recommendation based on hearing probable causes and all that sort of thing. And if we're going to discipline the license, so we have to have a quasi-judicial hearing. And you're kind of recommending discipline, but isn't it, I just wonder, this is just a question on my part, you didn't have a chance to present the case or anything, but the place is presently under suspension. Is that correct?
I believe the suspension's been over.
It's over? Because I just happened to be there, when I ate at Julie's there today, and I noticed that place seemed to be closed, so but is this, this isn't a double jeopardy, is this new stuff coming forward now?
There will be new stuff coming forward. There are 2 citations that are pending right now in court that will be resolved on June 1st.
The other case was resolved by the voluntary closing, suspension of the
That's
license for, how long was it, 2 weeks? Or
I believe it was 30 days.
30 days, okay.
And that information can be used by this committee, but it'll be, obviously, Mr. Nichols can present his evidence against it.
But there's more on top of that,
That's
is what
correct.
you're saying?
Yeah.
And can we just have a short review of that?
Let's see. Do you have any information on that? It's these 2, right?
Yeah, it's those two, I'm not aware of them.
Okay.
I didn't think this court had, this committee had oversight of that.
Because I think we have to make the decision to have a quasi-judicial hearing.
Yeah, that's correct. And that's,
so we need some information from you.
so I believe the incidents that happened was, there was, Mr. Nichols was cited with licensed premises open after hours, and then he was also cited with maintaining a public nuisance within the second offense within 24 months. Those are the 2 new citations that are going to court on June 1st, and that will be resolved on June 1st.
So there were 2, one was open after hours again?
Yep.
I mean, I had to
Same day.
exit, I had to exit the meeting a little early that day, so I didn't hear, so I'm just forgive me for my questions here at this point in time, but was that the one where supposedly the open bottle of beer was on the counter and there was an employee there, and but was that the one that was resolved with the 30-day suspension?
No, that was an additional.
So that's a new one, and that's what we're going to be talking about, that particular one?
You know, actually, I want to make sure I have this right. It's very possible that on that date in February, when he had that violation, he already entered into a stipulation that if he had another violation, there would be a 30-day suspension. I think because of whether or not he was found guilty or not of that citation on February 2nd, I think he was suspended for that.
Well, he'd be suspended even if he was found not guilty?
Yeah.
Really?
Correct.
That's what the stipulation was entered into.
That if he had another violation? But a violation isn't a violation until it's convicted.
What I would explain to you is that there's, typically there's holdopens, and when people are charged with another thing, going forward, then they can be found guilty of the prior charge, basically.
Well, I understand we hold open things sometime, and if something else happens, that's an automatic admission of guilt, and it's all stipulated ahead of time what they'll pay and everything else. Am I correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
And is that what happened here?
I think the stipulation here, I wish I would have, I didn't want to bring it to give you all the information because I want that to be presented at a hearing. But it's just I believe the stipulation was if there was any violation, whether found guilty or not, I believe the suspension would be put into effect. And that was entered into by the city and also Mr. Nichols.
So just an accusation would close them down?
No, it'd have to be a verified charge from the police department.
But a verified charge isn't verified until it's convicted in court, is it?
Well, you can be charged with something, but you can be found guilty or not guilty of it. And the stipulation was.
So what happened in a situation where you'd be found not guilty?
The stipulation stated.
And we've closed you down anyway, even though you weren't guilty.
And
I never would have agreed to that.
And what happened was, there were other violations, and I don't want to get into the details of those other violations, but in lieu of not having a trial on those other violations, an agreement was entered into.
You're not prepared to bring us the case here tonight?
No, because I want to give.
No, I'm sorry that you have to get permission from this committee based on what you have to tell us. I mean, that's been my history. Being on this committee for, probably 18, 20, 22 years or something like that. They always, when I was on the, I realized we've got new members to the council, relatively new members to the council, but that was the law. I don't want to lose on the technicality or anything like that. But it just seemed to me that, and I can remember hearing what the department had to say, and we asked for a response from it. We didn't like the responses for whatever reason, and there was a little give and take here. Then we would schedule a quasi-judicial hearing. And then sometimes the parties got together before we actually had the quasi-judicial hearing, because that's an expense to the city to a certain extent. And, you made recommendations to us, and we acted upon those, or we went ahead and had quasi-judicial hearings. And I participated in all of the above that I've mentioned here. But are we within the law here without hearing the reason for it to call for a quasi-judicial hearing?
The reason?
I'm perfectly willing. In fact, I'm willing to handle the rest of our agenda if you want to go grab the information and bring it back to us.
I think that would be more of a violation of the law, because I do not want you to become unbiased, or excuse me, you become biased hearing all the information and evidence when he's not here to present anything on it. And I also don't have the prosecutor who would be the one presenting this evidence, and the police officers here presenting it as well. What I'm trying to do is make sure that we're following the procedures of a quasi-judicial hearing, where the committee is not biased on hearing too much information before they go forward with the hearing. So what I'm trying to do is state that there has been some new violations, there's been some past conduct, and based on this past conduct, the recommendation from the police department and the law department is to move forward with holding this item and having a quasi-judicial hearing at a future date.
What I'm trying to do is, I'm operating through my memory on this, is that,
if I may,
I'll yield to you, but then I'd like you to recognize.
I will. I just want to say that the last semi-judicial hearing that this committee went through, I was part of a couple of years ago, and we did not have a preliminary hearing because there was a concern of being prejudicial. It was best to, if staff had enough concern that we need to have this hearing and do it with proper notice and let them be able to defend and prepare their case. Of course, and then also have staff prepare its case, so that if you do a meeting beforehand, you end up. Where do you stop? When do you say that this is too much information? It's just best to make it a clean process where staff is going to recommend that we do not renew their license, and we should have a semi-judicial hearing, and we will decide at that hearing whether we agree with staff or not. And actually, the last one we didn't. But it was very clean process in that staff was, as soon as staff was not going to recommend, to make sure that no one was prejudiced, no one had any kind of information beforehand or anything, or things got all muddied up with a preliminary hearing, and we're dealing with issues that should have been put off more properly with a proper defense. It's just better to go right to that semi-judicial hearing. That's what we did a couple of years ago.
Well, process has changed. I don't know if the law has changed or at all since I last participated in one, but it was very much what I had said earlier. You hear from the department and you hear from the owner and you decide if there's enough to go to a quasi-judicial hearing. We don't just go to a quasi-judicial hearing, hearing nothing. I mean, that puts people to an expense. It's an expense of a hearing. They have a right to this mini hearing or whatever you want to call it. And I know the officer is shaking his head, but I'm just telling you that's the way it always was. And I don't know what's right or wrong. I mean, maybe the law has changed, but at least this committee made a decision. And for us to make a decision, you're asking us to make a decision to have a quasi-judicial hearing. You haven't presented us with any information.
In Alderson, it was my understanding that this committee would be able to recommend a quasi-judicial, but they couldn't hear testimony, because otherwise I would have to bring at an expense to the city and the department, officers in on overtime to come here to explain an entire case. So
I understand that.
I feel
But I mean,
I
at this
feel bad
point-
that I'm not prepared for you.
Well, I mean, you don't have to have them all in. You just need to tell us the reasoning behind it. And then we listen to the owner, whatever the response is, and then we make a decision if we have a quasi-judicial hearing to bring it all in.
I
That's all I've done in the
kind of understand what you're saying. It's like a preliminary hearing, but we don't do it for dangerous dogs. We don't do it on the ethics committee. People have the right to file a complaint, and then we are the jury. We're not the judge making a decision whether there's enough for a complaint, just like with the last ethics complaint. There wasn't enough there, and we told that person that after hearing all the evidence that your complaint is no good, and we're not going to make any recommendations. So I understand what Joe is saying and what John is saying is, if we start presenting too much of the case, we might as well just have it right now. But Mr. Nichols certainly doesn't have any paperwork or anything to be able to defend himself. The department doesn't have anything. We just have to take it that they're making a responsible decision to make this recommendation for the hearing, and then afterwards or during the hearing, we can shut it down and tell them there's nothing there, or, or there is something there, we need to make a decision. But
Can you cite anything in the statute to confirm what Mr. Gelman is saying?
Is there anything in the statutes that we need a preliminary hearing of something, or is that required?
The statute does not say that there's any preliminary hearing, and the statute would be chapter 125, section 12. This controls all this, and it says that you need to give proper notice to the individual about the alleged violations, that there will be a date and a time for a quasi-judicial hearing. And based on quasi-judicial hearings, the committee cannot be biased, they cannot have any ex parte communications. So if you heard all this evidence from the city, we'd be giving you an ex parte communication, you'd be hearing one side of it, and we're trying to prevent that tonight.
No, that's not true. We have to hear from both sides, and then we decide if it's serious enough to have a quasi-judicial hearing where you have to bring in the witnesses, and then the person who's being processed through the quasi-judicial hearing has a right to bring in attorney, whatever. And I know that was always my history of it. I went through probably about half a dozen of them. There hasn't been a lot of them. We don't have a quasi-judicial hearing every year or anything like that, but that was always the case. Otherwise, we're just operating on the decision of the department to have a quasi-judicial hearing.
Well, what I've stated tonight is that...
Well, no, but the department is, the only thing the department is saying is they're going to recommend that we do not renew their license. To properly do that, we should have a semi-judicial hearing where everyone is fully notified of what the issues are, they can come fully prepared, both sides, and then we decide then. You can't do it piecemeal. It would be...
How many outstanding citations are there right now?
I believe there's 2 right now.
And one of them is a nuisance thing?
One, I believe, is maintaining public nuisance, and the other is licensed premises open after hours.
But are they 2 different events or the same event?
It's in this liquor violation packet that was given to all of you. That's why I feel comfortable
Same
stating
event.
this, because you've already looked at this before. You've already heard some information from Mr. Nichols before at a different committee hearing. So, I mean, there's outstanding violations at this time, and they're both from the same date, February 6, 2017. and then there was past conduct before that, that's why the police department and the law department's recommending that we give the proper notice to Mr. Nichols and we have a quasi-judicial hearing so you guys can hear the evidence as unbiased committees, or unbiased committee.
But if you're saying that you want it just because there's one person, an employee in a bar within one open bottle of beer.
Well, you see, that's what you're starting to bias yourself by discussing the facts of the
Well, I'm
case.
talking about, I asked him, what is the reason, what are the violations? And that's all they can give me is those two. My experience with these quasi-judicial hearings was numerous problems over and over and over again. And we always gave the benefit of the doubt to listen, and we decided that certain cases were egregious enough to have a quasi-judicial hearing, and sometimes the law department worked out an agreement ahead of time where they sometimes even forfeited their license.
Well, there's, actually, if you look.
Or suspended their license, and then, short of an agreement, we had the quasi-judicial hearing, but the last thing we want to have is a quasi-judicial hearing
If you look at
unnecessarily.
your packet, there's a list of citations from 2015, 2016. I mean, this
Well, I
was
don't
in
know,
our-
I just asked a question, you said there were
Yeah.
just two.
You asked me if there's outstanding citations. There were 2 outstanding citations.
And what are the other citations? Could you just tell us what those are?
Disturbance, ordinance violation, what else do we got? Another ordinance violation, a disturbance, an ordinance violation, a
When it
disturbance.
says ordinance violation, what does that mean?
It doesn't, there's no specific.
The license was
information.
disciplined or was it that 2 people were fighting in the parking lot or something?
It doesn't have a specific.
But look, this is, I'm gonna rule here. I am very concerned about going too far here. I think it's been my experience that this is the way it goes, that we have when staff says they're not gonna renew a license, that's a serious thing, and we want to follow procedures and give the defendant every chance they can to come prepared and know exactly what his staff will have to send them, exactly what the concerns are. And then we decide. We decide at that time. We shouldn't be deciding piecemeal like this. So I would just take a motion.
Well, I'm just sorry, Mr. Chairman, because I'm just telling you the past practice that I have been through.
Well, and I'm
on
telling you.
At least a half a dozen occasions.
Well, right now.
Required that.
The process I've been through is different, and I think the process I've been through is more appropriate in that it is more clean, straightforward, and does not allow for any mixing of information that shouldn't be, that's inappropriate. It's just a much cleaner process and a more appropriate way to go. So I'm going to ask for a motion.
I think you're in error. I believe you're in error, and I don't want to participate in anything that even has the appearance of a kangaroo court.
Okay, I move to.
We haven't decided anything. We're not in judging. We're not in
You're
court.
deciding to have a quasi-judicial hearing, which is the last step you take.
No, we have to.
It's a step to take when a staff says they're not going to renew, their recommendation is not to renew.
I move to follow the recommendation of staff to have a quasi-judicial hearing on the.
And we hold this item until our next
Until our next meeting, which is June
12th. Motion by Alder Dorf.
I'll second that.
Second by Alder Galvin.
Discussion.
Pardon? You want to?
Discussion. I don't think the staff, I may be in total agreement with them in the final, but they have not brought us sufficient evidence to have a quasi-judicial hearing at this point in time.
To bring the evidence is to do the quasi-judicial hearing. That's when we decide whether their evidence is good enough or not. It's not
Well,
before.
I maintain
And
that they have to bring a reasonable summation of why we should have it, and at least a small opportunity for the owner to respond to it, and then we make a decision. That's how I feel. That's always the way that I went through it before. I could be totally wrong now. Maybe laws have changed. It's been a while since, it's probably at least 10, 12 years since I participated in one of these. And I would hope that we want to follow everything correctly, because you don't need something challenged on a technicality or
right, and I believe we are
not
setting
having
our.
done what we
Yep.
think was
That's
done
right,
correctly. You know, Dave, you've been around a long time. Do you remember it as I remember it?
Absolutely.
I'm talking about Dave Knight here.
I didn't have a lot of involvement with protection of welfare, so I'm afraid I can't offer a lot of memory on that one.
Okay, I'm just wondering.
Yeah. Well, I think if you go into a what you want to do is a semi judicial hearing. And the law does not state that we need to do a preliminary hearing.
You need to determine there's a basis before you have it.
Staff has determined that they are going to recommend non-renewal. That's the basis.
But they don't get to.
They don't get to
choose whether
renew
have
or
a
non-renew. That is
hearing or not.
that is our decision to renew or non-renew. But as soon as staff makes that recommendation, we should follow a procedure that is clean, efficient, and allows for everyone to be fully prepared to deal with this issue.
You're just missing the point, Mr. Chairman.
Which
They
is-
need to bring to us information for us to make that judgment to have a quasi-judicial hearing. And it has to be at least a cursory review and a cursory response. And if we think there's enough there to do it, we do it.
Mr. Chair, do you mind?
Yeah, go ahead.
So if you look in the tab, or the attached documents, the presumption from the law department was stating that violations that are attached to this report, and also stating that there were 2 open citations that will be resolved on June 1st. And based on the recommendations from the law department and the police department, that was the basis that we're presenting to the committee, and the committee can decide whether or not they want to hold this and have a quasi-judicial hearing, or if that's not enough information, if they feel like that's not enough today, they can move forward and they could just approve it today if they want to.
This is
But that
number-
was what we presented to
This
you
is
guys
number
today.
9?
Is it?
It's in the.
Goes from 7 to 10.
After 7, between 7 and 10.
7 with these.
There's not much.
Right there.
There and then the next.
All you have is, all you have is this application.
It's that next part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's happened is through its
Mhm.
nuisance violations and the billing date and everything else.
And that was for the past 2 years, we have attached the report, and unfortunately, there was not a tab connected to it. These were the incidences, and then based on the recommendation from the police board, this is why we are recommending to hold it and have a quasi-judicial hearing, and that's what we presented today.
So it's 6 paid by the citations? These are paid by citations? These are already acted upon, except the last 2 you said?
I believe that's correct.
And they resulted in $100, $200, $300 citations?
I do not know the exact amount that.
Well, I'm just looking at this.
$1,397.
That's officer billing time. Once a property is declared a public nuisance, they get billed for officer time. That has nothing to do with the citations.
Yeah, Susan, this is
I'm
the.
just looking at what you have here.
Yep, and I'm explaining it, sir. That's the officer's hours that they were billed for maintaining a public nuisance.
That's what this 1397 is?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So these were calls for
These are
service?
calls for Those were calls for
that you-
service.
You billed them?
Yep.
So it was for whatever reason that they were called there?
Yep.
And we don't know what they're called there for, just other than disturbance?
Like I said, sir, I wasn't prepared to answer questions at this committee.
Well, I'm going to hold my peace because I've said what I thought, but I really want to err on the side of caution, and you really need to hear before you call a quasi-judicial hearing and put people through an expense as well as the city an expense. Did you have to, what, court reporters, everything else?
No, this can be recorded through recording devices we have.
We do
have to
have
call in another attorney.
We do call in another attorney.
To represent the committee.
Yep.
Because Attorney Johnson and myself have been pretty involved with this, that we could not advise the committee on how to make a decision.
Right.
Like I say, Tom, this is the last time I'll say it, but in the past, we've always been given some little details of what went on, and we heard a little bit, and then we made a decision to have it or not have it. And I would say 2/3 of the time we did have one, and 1/3 of the time we didn't. But that's how we made our decisions whether we should have one or not. So
So there's a motion.
Well, I guess the question is does anyone need any more information before making a decision to go to a semi-judicial hearing or not? That is the question.
I would like more.
Okay, you would like more?
I don't need any more.
Then we have a motion and a second. All in favor of holding this and having a semi-judicial hearing on June 12th? Quasi.
Keep saying semi.
Semi? Well, that's because I'm trucking, man.
Yeah.
Quasi. Yes, well,
I just know we all know what we're doing.
Yep. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I would abstain.
Abstain?
I
One
don't
abstention?
feel we followed the proper procedure.
Okay. So that's one abstention and 3 ayes, so we will hold this and we will notify Dave Nichols, Nick's Bar, and proceed accordingly. I would then, we move on to 10, consideration of possible action on a request by Alder Nenning on behalf of Dave Nichols, owner of Nick's Bar and Grill, discuss his concerns regarding liquor licensing and city procedures previously discussed at the April 27, 2017 B&W meeting. I think we should hold that until after the semi-judicial hearing so that there's no, we don't,
I don't intend, this is not, number 10, I don't know why that they put this in here, but number 10 has, you know, it is related to Nick's, but it also has, it's the operating procedure
Please
you're
just- right,
talking about.
right.
I don't intend, you know, if I start saying something about my bar, you can shut me up. This is the operating procedures I'm talking
As
about.
at the last meeting, what we were talking about is we just wanted to hear what the
procedures
police
was.
department's procedure was.
Right, right.
We don't want to hear anything about Nick's
Nick's-
issues with
right.
the city right now, which is
But,
the
but
procedure.
if you recall, we kept sliding into it, but if we can shut that down, because that was my concern, I don't want to get to, for your case to be messed up. You know, if we can follow this procedures without going into specifics of your bar, we might be good, but if we, as soon as we start sliding into the specifics of your bar, I'm afraid that might end up being prejudicial and we'll end up screwing the quasi-judicial hearing, and I don't want that to happen.
See, I don't know why.
In fairness to you.
When I don't know if I can speak or not.
Well, we could open the,
Motion to open the floor.
Second.
motion open the floor by Alder Galvin, second by Alder Dorf, all in favor?
Aye.
Dave Nichols,
This is, you don't have to get sworn in, just name and address.
Dave Nichols, 3036 Northwood Road, Swamico. My issues, you know, some of this is my bar, but some of my issues were, like, when an issue is cited by the, when you have a meeting in, when the owner goes, like, when I went in, and pretend I own Joe's Bar. When I went into my meeting at City Hall to meet with the city attorney, and I don't know how, and one of the things is, how do they determine who sits in that meeting? Okay, and then when you disagree with those people in that meeting, there's no feedback loop to come back and say, you know, they asked this of me, or they asked that of me. There's no way to get that feedback back. They come in, they go, that's what you're gonna do. You know, they don't ask us anything, you know. I would like the city to say, what can we do to give you a hand? What can we do, you know? One of the things that I was going after is this, well, first of all, before we go, guys, here's another issue. City Ordinance 3307, Sub 2, and this is, here, sir, that's your city ordinance. Sub 2 says a hearing or a pre-hearing. Even stuff like this, that's clearly written, isn't clearly understood. And there's also a point system in there that was supposed to be used, but and sometimes it's used and sometimes it's not. And sometimes a ticket is issued for a public nuisance when they just want to do something to you because they don't get another one. If you follow this ordinance, it states that you get so many points for after hours, so many points for this, so many points for that. If you get a combination of that many points within 24 months, then things should happen to you. And all I'm saying is there's a whole bunch of different ways that this is being looked at, and none of it is in continuity. There's no continuity to it. There's no, I brought for you guys if you go to the state statutes it was referred to, because I'm well aware of this new nuisance ordinance coming up, but if you go into the state statutes, it states in there if, and I understand that's the state, but the bottom line is it states, if you benefit from this, or if you have knowledge of this, okay, take for instance, someone open after hours. What do you think the bar would benefit for being open after hours? Would there be any benefit to that? No, you have an employee drinking your drinks and your booze, you have an employee eating your food and your steaks and your sandwiches. There is no benefit to being open after hours. I would like that person busted and fined as well as you would, as well as the city would. The only people that don't want that fine is someone, and the officer said earlier tonight, we don't put them out of business until they've done like 3 things, and I'm sure that's on tape. And that's what it's turned into is, the police department decides who they're gonna put out of business, and they go after you and they put you out of business. And it doesn't matter if my alderman's never had a complaint on me. Here's the, if you look at that, that's a state statute. If you look at the things that I outlined in red, and I realize this is a state, but it says if you knew or knew, if you should have known or you were aware of it, or, I'm sorry, I didn't look, oh, I didn't know, all right. If you look at those 3 things, it says, and I know that applies statewide, but it's not to this city specifically, but it does say, the 3rd one says, if you're gonna benefit from it, you know, I understand, if I'm gonna be open after hours serving 30 people, because I think I can make an extra $30, then I am wrong. But when you guys send me a licensed bartender, and that's not one of the things that was on my list, is you send me a licensed bartender, I expect that you guys have done research on this person, and they're a respectable person, they'll probably do a good job. When that person stays open after hours, it doesn't do me any good. I don't, you know, and specifically this instance, and we can't go to Nick's, but I think it'd be, go ahead.
No, I'll let you finish.
No, I'm saying, I think it should be the onus is on who's causing the problem. And if I would say to my staff, well, just don't worry about IDs, don't serve them, and don't do this, then yes, I do think I should get a ticket. When I say to my staff, close, you gotta close on time, close 15 minutes early, we've got a problem, and they do it anyway, I want them to get a ticket. I don't want to be put out of business. I don't want to be shut down for 30 days. I don't want to lose $30,000. I don't want the headache. There's nothing in it for me to gain. So the whole procedure, what I'm saying is, the whole procedure has no continuity to it. No one follows what the city citations are, the ones I gave you here, the point systems. They just decide, I'm just gonna give you a public nuisance ticket. And here you go, I'm looking at $3,000 fines on top of being closed for 30 days. And I need to get to Nick's, but the bottom line is, they give me these tickets, and then they close me before I even go to court. And I would never agree. But anyway, I should say, you do that to bars, you give them the ticket, you find them guilty before the bars have had their chance to go to court. And to find out whether so automatically you're guilty.
Okay, I just want to get focused here now, okay? So the procedure we're looking at is after hours. The first, we're going to look at a couple of them, I'm assuming. First one is after hours, the procedures for after hours. And I want to see if I get, as I understand it, the purpose of that is so that an establishment is not serving alcohol and making money after hours. I'm assuming that's the purpose of that, so that they...
Yeah, it's basically state law says you gotta close by 2, have your bar cleared out by 2 o'clock during the week, 2:30 on the weekends.
Okay, and you're saying that there are, with our procedures, it's even if the bar is cleared out, but there's a worker, a bartender there, that they can still be cited, and I have been cited?
Alcohol can't be consumed after 2 o'clock during the week.
No matter who it is?
No matter who it is, on premises.
On premises.
An employee can be in the bar cleaning it up or whatever, but
Cleaning.
they can't be consuming.
Can't be consuming alcohol.
Alcohol, nothing to do with food or anything.
Okay. So, but your contention is that that's a problem? If
It's a problem because it's selectively, number one, it's selectively enforced. Number two, it doesn't solve the issue. The issue is, you want the people out of there at 2 o'clock. I want them out there at 2 o'clock, okay? But for the police department to try to put me out of business because I have a bartender, and I can fire those people, and you can tell me to do it. It's like when you issue a license Does the city have some responsibility? You guys you send me a person, say, this person is a licensed bartender, it's licensed, they should know the law. And then, when they screw up, I get the ticket, maybe should protection get a ticket? I mean, you guys sent me a licensed bartender. I assumed that this person would be good and do my business. Like, Mrs. Dorf, you sent one of your vice principals to pick something up from another school and they got a speeding ticket. Should you get a speeding ticket as well? You trusted them, you had faith in them, you go, please do that. Then they were violating the safety of the school by getting a ticket. Maybe should your vice principal get a ticket because a teacher did that? All I'm saying is, to be reasonable, I think intent should be part of the situation. And if you guys go, if I'm going like this, and excuse me, but sometimes that can be when they tell you can't play this type of music or you can't.
All right, no.
But
On any bar.
Okay.
If you can't, like they like Liquid Ace, the same thing. They went down to Andy. They said you can't play this type of music. You can't do this. When they do that, then I do get a little defensive and I'm probably a little harder to work with. Or in that situation, when I walk out, or you walk out of a meeting, you go, I totally disagree with this whole procedure. Then you're automatically guilty
Okay,
as well.
I just want to get this organized though, okay? So
Okay,
after hours, you're saying that our procedures of, we find the bartender, I mean, we cite the bartender if they're there drinking, correct? But then we also cite the owner, is that correct?
If possible, yes.
It's possible.
It's an officer discretion thing.
Officer discretion, okay.
And if it's not the officer's discretion, then it can go to the
It
shift
can go,
commander.
absolutely,
And the
I can
shift
order one of
commander
my
can-
officers to go back and cite the owner if I read a report.
That's one of the pending cases. See, this is one of the pending,
But it happens that way. I'm just saying, there's
Right.
no, whether it's Nick's or it's any other bar,
Right, but-
the officer can give a ticket or not. And if he doesn't give a ticket, then the next in command can give a ticket or not. It wasn't even there.
right?
And so this is the procedural thing. I guess,
I understand what you're saying by the procedural thing, but the point is now, is that this procedural thing is going to be part of your defense in all probability, because this is something that you have to deal with,
all right,
right?
well,
So,
let's just table this because here's what happened. The lady attorney decided that she was gonna put this on here. I brought this to Dave Denning a month ago with no intention of having my bar on this committee tonight. I did not, when I got this in the mail, I got it today on Monday. I didn't know my bar would be on this tonight, it had nothing to do with it. So all of a sudden, Kristen decides that first of all, she doesn't show up, in my opinion, because she didn't want to answer questions from me here. Second of all, this just happens to happen on the night that I come to the committee to discuss stuff like this, but now I can't discuss it because there's a couple bogus pending tickets.
and partly that was, the council, the committee may have decided not to hold your license up, and if that would have happened, we could have gone forward with this. So it all depended on if we decided we should do the quasi judicial hearing or not. That's what this one depended on,
I mean, I give you the ordinance, Mr. Simmons correctly, another point of order. Mr. Simmons was exactly right, this is a hearing or a pre-hearing. How can you order a hearing when you don't have a pre-hearing, when you don't know what it is? And how can you bias yourselves when you're gonna hear the whole thing either way? Why is this so complicated?
Because okay, like at the last meeting, you start talking about officers said I could do A, or I should do B, or I can't do A. We're sitting here at the police department, had no idea you were gonna be making those accusations. You had no information other than your word they said it. We don't even have the names of the officers so we could bring them up and say, did you indeed say this? Or how did that conversation go down? And so we started having a one-sided hearing about whether the police department did something correctly or incorrectly. And that's not fair to both sides.
So when you know you're coming back next week to justify anything I've said, what makes it unfair to you guys? Because you can come back and say, well, here's what Nicholas said 2 weeks ago, and that's the biggest bunch of crap I've ever heard.
well, we want to be fair straight across the board. We need to be fair to you as to ourselves. I mean, we don't, like I said, the last time we did this, we did not follow staff's recommendation, and we renewed the license. So, I mean, this isn't a foregone conclusion of any kind, and it's best that we just keep it a clean slate as we possibly can until we can sit down and hash it all out.
And again, that's your title of that. I was with Guy, I sat on this committee 6 years, and we heard a lot of them. We heard a lot of problems. And another thing, we didn't raise ourselves up above the people that are talking. This is ridiculous. You guys sit up higher than the people you're talking to. Because you're looking constantly down on people, and some people are intimidated to talk. And now you're making them low, you high, and that's another issue I'll bring up later. But the bottom line is, I sat with him on this. We went through a lot of these. And we weren't worried about tainting it. If we thought the guy was full of bullshit, we called the officer in the next meeting and said, here's what he said. And what the officer who said, we took whatever, we looked into both sides of it. But we weren't worried about tainting it or making it clean and tidy. We wanted answers. And whether we got them the first time or the second time or the third time, we got them. And we were fair about it.
But, well, and I don't know, I can't say, but if we do not, if we are unfair, if we are seen as being unfair, whatever decision we make, let's say we decide against you, you could then take that to court and use that evidence. So that's why it's best to just.
I understand. My issue was, from this whole start is, there's a shotgun approach to this. And it started, I don't know when it started under Alderman Weary and Chief Arts. And it started to turn from being a fair, equitable committee and stuff to being a police dictated. Another thing is, the police should make recommendations, but the police's job is to be as safe as possible, okay? And then on the other end, you have to have both pull and push. And you have to have the guys going, no, that's not safe. And the other guys going, well, that's not going to bring people in. So you're meeting somewhere in the middle. And that's what this committee, this shouldn't belong to the police department or the legal department. That's what this committee should decide. That's what my alderman should decide. But it went from being that way to, staff said we're not going to do it, or like the officer said, we're working on putting them out of business. And it was just said tonight. And that's the way it is. So then you guys up and said, well, they want to put them out of business, so we'll probably do that, but we'll see. And that's just my take on it.
I can assure you, I'm going to give you a fair, I want to make sure that is.
With your history, I understand you, and I like your history, your history of history, because I'm a historian myself.
Yeah.
And in your experiences in other countries, I've been 30-some countries in a lot of places and seen a lot of stuff as well. And it changes your perspective on what's an emergency and what's not, what's a problem and what's not. So that's it. I guess, I'll go ahead and hold it up. But my thing is the procedural, I think that we need a subcommittee, because ultimately the best interest of the citizens of this, and if the police were smart, they'd come in, they go to the next, you got a rougher crowd here, how about we send other undercover people in here, what do you got for us? Because we don't want that either. And we'd say, come on in, we'll put you on behind it. You want a bartender, you want to pretend bartender? Come on in. We don't want, I'm a member of Tavern League, we don't want drugs in kids' hands, we don't want the prescription epidemics, we don't want that crap. We just, and it causes us more trouble because they come in like that, a lot of them. We don't want that either. So rather than working like this and going, we're putting you out of business because you're doing this or doing that, well, why wouldn't the city just once in a while go, let's work together on this. You know what? Let's if you got to identify a drug dealer, or you think something's going on, talk to us, we'll come in, or we'll come in undercover, and we'll know who you are, or maybe put someone behind the bar. Check it out. There's not a bar in the Green Bay that wouldn't mind you coming in and sitting there and going, or the police or anyone coming in and observing what's going on. And I have some stuff going on in a bar up north where I notify them if I think that, and I have a good relationship with them, I notify, if I think someone's on something, or doing something, or moving something, I call them up and say, hey, you might want to come down and talk to this guy, or you might want to watch this guy, you might want to send somebody in tonight because one of the people I work for thinks that this might be happening. It's pretty effective, but you can keep an eye on people, and if we can get to that point, and I don't want disorder, but I also don't want to be told I can't, or that people can't listen to the stuff of their choice, do the things that they want to do, and I think part of the reason the city has only grown less than 1% is, just like tonight, the sidewalk ordinance. I get along with Guy great, but I disagree. I think that that's a great thing for people to come out and be able to have a beer. And then maybe it should go further, because some of the little bars like mine, you have to have a 6-foot impermeable fence. Because rather than trust that things are going to be good, the police department goes, you can't sneak a beer out the fence. You go down to Milwaukee, you go to Chicago. I was just in Minneapolis last Thursday for 2 days. You go along the walkways, everyone can drink and have a good time. No one wants to slide a glass of whiskey to a child. And that's where the people grow, and that's where the things are happening. That's where we're behind. If you look to go to Jill's right over here, she has to have a fence this tall, and you can't see through it, and it's like you're in prison. The sun can't shine through. But then you go down here to the Haber, whatever downtown, and the city deck, they can have their fences this low, and you could pass a beer or a joint or anything you wanted off the deck. But because they're downtown and they're, in my opinion, they're worth more money. You go to Nick's Bar, you go to Jill's Bar, you go to any of these little bars, you gotta build a fortress because someone in there might pass a child a drink. And I think a subcommittee should be made, and a lot of this stuff to get reviewed, and instead of busting heads and having problems, try to work together. So, if you wanna table this till after that, that's fine with me, I guess.
Well, I think we
Nothing
should
I can
hold
do
it,
about it.
I think we should hold it till after we get everything cleared out with your business, and then we could hopefully get that positive relationship going one way or another and make the city better.
Move to return to regular order of business.
Motion to return.
Let's say
By
something.
Simmons, second by Galvin, all in favor? Aye.
He's got something.
Well, we're
What?
returning to
Yeah,
regular
that's
order.
okay.
Aye.
We're on this number 10 now, or whatever it is.
Yes. So we're back in regular order.
And we do have more staff here as well. Michelle Belandri can offer some information on the protocols that the police department do conduct and talk about them in general, about public and chronic nuisances that are applied to bars and also other landlords and any other property.
And I appreciate you being here, and I wasn't sure how, like I said, the item above it was going to go, but since we are holding it, I think it'd be best to just, because if you start, then we should really open it, and I think.
What she would speak about, I'm sorry to interrupt, what she would speak about is
the process.
Yeah, but you're right, it's.
I think, we can.
I just have a couple questions, Mr. Chairman.
Certainly.
Regarding all this, because some of it might not be true, maybe it is true, I don't know. I just want to get the facts, that's all.
Yep.
It's my understanding that, we've had this where, it's been for quite a few years now, where people who want to apply for a license, a liquor license, have to have a business plan. That's correct, right? We still have that.
Our CPs sit down with them, and they don't have to sign it. We encourage that they sign it. Some places refuse to sign. It is not ours to, then we just recommend our opinion to the committee at the time, and it's up to you guys whether or not they receive the business plan. But we have different best practices, and that's, I passed out the letter that we send to people and the stipulations that we ask them for.
I think it's all well and good to find clearer ways to tell, especially new people that are starting a bar, because those are the ones that usually have the first problem. The people that have been around for 20 years don't have them. Most of the problems usually come from inexperienced people. But if it is to give a clearer picture to people about what to avoid problems, obviously they're responsible for the operation of their facility. They can take your advice or not take your advice, but if they don't take your advice, they're probably going to get in trouble. But it seems to me, I don't know that you can tell a person exactly how to run their business. I mean, telling them what the rules are very clearly and sharing that with them and asking them to sign that they've at least read this. But it really, I don't believe you can cross the line. This is my feeling of telling them, well, what kind of music they can play, whether they can have specials on drinks, whatever it is, something like that. I always felt uncomfortable. I always felt that, I don't want to create an ACLU case. Individual rights are pretty important in our society. And so I always felt that if someone doesn't agree with the business plan and you're insisting on something with them, there should be some kind of procedure for appeal to, for instance, our committee. And then we decide whether it's reasonable or not reasonable. I never want to be accused of being a party to any kind of star chamber operation. Where we're deciding and you're gonna do it, and that's the way it is.
Yeah, Alder Zima, once the business plan is filled out, then we give our recommendation. You guys review it, and and I think Alder Galvin a couple of weeks ago asked me, well, why didn't you recommend this, or why doesn't they have a scanner? And then I said, well, their business plan is very small. They plan on serving like lunch, excuse me. Oh, that's your, okay, I wasn't sure. I'm hearing the noise, sorry about that.
Well, I'm for you
So-
having advice, anything that would be
Yeah,
helpful.
so they, we require that they have an ID scanner for most of the bars because of sports bars and stuff, but if you were a small cafe and you said, I don't need a scanner, and then you didn't sign off on that, and then Alderman Galvin asked me, well, why don't they need a scanner? And I said, well, their plan is to be open 11 in the morning till 4 in the afternoon and sell mimosas. Chances are we're not gonna have a lot of underage drinking in there where they need to spend $1,200 on a scanner. So it kind of goes to what the business owner's plan is, how he wants his bar. If we're gonna play
Well, I
music
think in
and we
this
want
day
it to
and
be.
age, you know, a scanner, but those very extreme cases is just sound business practice, that's all.
Well, and it's
I
our
can remember when it
recommendation.
started out,
Yeah, it's our recommendation that everybody has it.
A guy named Tom Chuza, he got a liquor license, he was only about 20 years old, and his mother had a sign on it for him and that, and people were very skeptical. And he ran a place called Sneakers at that time, over on, Mr. Galvin probably remembers.
Elizabeth Street.
But the truth of the matter is, he was the first guy to install one of those, and he made people put their ID in their mug right into a camera. And he ran a very, very tight ship and a very efficient one, and I don't think he ever got cited. And I can remember he used to pay his bartenders, I think at the time it was $5 for every fake ID they found. And I can remember him bringing to the police department and our committee, just throwing 50, 100 of them onto our desks to show, his intent to obey the law. And he, contrary to what everybody thought, he actually run a very, very tight ship. And was probably an example, and it led to more and more places. Anybody that, is serving a lot of people, or potentially a lot of people, really needs those things. But my concern was that, the business plan really shouldn't go beyond giving them good advice of how to operate their business.
Yeah, I always look at it as best practices.
Okay, so you don't tell them they can't have
Well,
rap music, for instance. I don't
No,
like
and
rap music,
I wasn't privy, I wasn't there, and I can't imagine that, like I said, I
Are you saying
can't,
that doesn't really happen?
it's never happened that I've seen it, nor I've never told anybody that. I don't know the conversation that Mr. Nichols is referring to, so I can't say he's right or wrong, but I can't comment on that.
Because I had heard that before Mr. Nichols, but I always said, gee, can they really do something like that? I guess, then the other thing that's, I think, more important, the thing that I feel, even with inspection or police department, is this declaration of a nuisance without any procedure or appeal about it. I mean, at least in the inspection department, I don't know if it's the same, correct me if I'm wrong in the police department, but when somebody's declared a nuisance, well, then you start billing them for every call that comes there, no matter what the heck it is. And, two people can be arguing over a girlfriend in the parking lot, and it isn't really a liquor law violation, but it's the property's a disorderly house, and we usually don't have that type of things, but I can remember times when we required people to have somebody, when it was a large volume place, that they have people in their parking lot to supervise people coming and going because it was a large operation.
Yeah.
And if it's a small operation, it's an occasional thing that happens, well, it's a little bit different story, but, and when the inspection department, if they're declared a nuisance property, they don't send them a letter saying, paint your windows, just give them a citation. they lose a certain, they lose a certain rights of other people because they've been declared a nuisance. And I always felt uncomfortable with that. If they're gonna be declared a nuisance, almost, there should be some right of appeal on it. Just my opinion about procedures here. I'm just throwing out what I think. I'm not saying it has to be that way.
We're gonna be taking all these up later.
Well, it's on the agenda, and I wanted to put it on the record.
But we're
Because
gonna,
I felt uncomfortable here tonight, and you heard me express it. I don't know that we're following even our own rules very well, and I feel very uncomfortable about it.
the motion is to
And
put
I-
this,
I
the
don't
motion
wanna-
is to put this on hold.
I
That's
don't
the
wanna-
discussion.
I don't want to create anything that would set up for an appeal outside of us, or put the city into litigation perhaps.
Right.
That's why I.
Which is why I took the course I took, and we have a difference of opinion on that. I
Well,
mean,
we do have a difference of opinion about it, but
And it could be that I'm right or I'm wrong.
we no
and-
more than got done. Mr. Nichols flopped it up here about his right to a preliminary hearing. It's in our own ordinances and we don't follow them. You do one step at a time.
There's no preliminary, there's nothing but a preliminary hearing in our ordinances.
Oh, there is nothing?
There is nothing.
So that
No.
was fantasy I just heard? or-
Yeah, it did say in that pre-hearing, but what we had was a pre-hearing, but.
Well, it wasn't much of a pre-hearing. You couldn't even tell me what the charges were about.
That's because I believe in the past, it might have been conducted a little bit differently. And the course now going forward is that we want to ensure that we have an unbiased committee going forward and that we properly.
It has nothing to do with being unbiased. I really take umbrage with you, attorney. You're telling us why you think we should have a quasi-judicial hearing, and you bring those details to us. And then we decide if it's egregious enough that, yes, are going to have one, and you're going to have every opportunity, whoever the owner is, to come forward and defend yourself. But I mean, gee, I don't know, I just feel like we're outside,
No.
really, our
This is the way
procedure.
it's been done
And Mr.
in the
Scannell was
past.
on a committee previous to this, his previous term. There was a lot of very inexperienced people on the committee.
Alder Whitby is pretty experienced. Alder Stoyer is fairly experienced. I mean,
Fairly
but we-
experienced,
we-
he's
we
in
read- but-
Point of order,
Anyway,
didn't we
let's-
already decide that we were going
Yes,
to have the hearing?
that's,
Well,
and
we
these,
decided-
and the item,
I'm
the
trying-
motion on
I'm trying to
the,
precaution you.
and I appreciate
put it
that.
on the record.
And it's on the record. It's been on the record a couple times now. Let's move on. The motion here is to hold. So that's what we should be discussing. Any reason not to hold this?
I think they are distinct
I
items.
don't remember, did someone make a motion to hold?
Yes?
Yeah, yeah.
Did we second it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just waited for it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think the things you bring up are good and we should discuss that, but at another meeting, when we go through the whole thing. So a motion to hold and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay, motion is held. On to item 12. Consideration of possible action on a request by Alder Weary to reword appropriate ordinance to allow council action on items during their first and second readings. Staff.
So I passed out another proposed ordinance. I believe this was communication brought forth by Alderman Weary to change our reading of ordinances. And you can see the language that it's changed to, saying that all ordinances shall have 3 readings, and this language is being added. Provided, however, that if the rule is suspended by 2/3 vote of the members present, a motion may be made to advance the 3rd reading, receive and place on file, or refer back to a committee or staff. And however, no ordinance shall be passed at the meeting it is introduced unless the rule is suspended by unanimous vote of the members present.
That's what's highlighted, that's changed.
And I would like to add too, I do think some of the original language in this needs to be crossed out as well. That will be added into the final ordinance.
Make a motion to refer to staff for the purpose of obtaining those results that Mr. Ware is requesting and have it the proper word for us to review.
So you'd like to refer this back to the committee, or excuse me, to staff?
Yeah. I'll second that.
And I do that with a certain amount of protest because I'm wondering why this is on our committee agenda. Is there anything in the Protection and Welfare Committee? I mean, see, this is something that belongs on the advisory committee. Or some executive committee or whatever. This is not a protection and welfare matter. So I don't want to hold up the idea, but I really want to put it on the record that I don't think this is a proper thing, a proper item for our agenda.
I agree.
Oh, you think this should have gone to advisory?
I think this should be, I don't know what committee this should have gone to, but I believe Protection and Welfare handles licensing and, alcohol. I don't believe this should be in front of this committee, but I would have to, I'm not sure what committee it would go.
I would make a motion that you put this together for consideration by the and refer it to the advisory committee.
Tom can decide if he wants to leave it there or move it somewhere else.
Okay.
Yeah,
Or a committee of the whole, I suppose, I don't know.
Well, we gotta meet on the advisory
I
to,
think,
on my item, so I would, and I pretty much know what I wanna do there, so then we'd end up being the executive committee as well as the protection and welfare committee, but, so, we may end up back with it, but for now, yep.
we have to vote on that.
Yes, motion to me to, send it to staff and then advisory, correct? You're gonna-
Yes.
And seconded,
I mean,
motion by
to
Alder.
encompass the ideas of Mr. Warren.
Motion by Alder Zima, seconded by Alder Galvin, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? That passes.
Motion adjourned.
Motion to adjourn by Alder Zima.
second.
Second by Alder Dorf, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.
Can we get a procedure on dogs?